All right, welcome back, Finance and Advisory Board to continue their meeting. Up next, Fire Department. Chief, if you would introduce yourself.
Hi, Al Beardsley. I'm the fire chief for the town of Georgetown. And good afternoon to everybody.
And we're on tab 10.
Hi.
Where would, is there any specific places you would like me to begin?
Well, I guess, we'll go over the actual fire department budget
Okay.
first, and then we'll get into the, where's the revolving fund? Do we have handouts in the revolving fund yet?
Ambulance is here. No, I don't think you do. I
Did
have
you
it here.
bring handouts for the
Oh,
revolving?
well, I didn't bring, usually you tell me, don't bring handouts, so I
Yeah,
didn't.
Mike, I don't know, did anybody print them out? For the ambulance revolving?
No. Oh,
I sent it out.
You sent it out
It's,
and,
It's on the fire department file.
it should be. yeah, it
Has
should
both
be
of them
on
on
there.
there.
Yeah, there should be one of the tabs, should be
Yeah.
marked
Okay,
as
well, we don't-
ambulance. One is
Here, I
marked
have
fire,
it.
one marked
What would you
ambulance.
like?
I'll take it, once you start, and I'll go down and make copies.
no, I'll make copies.
Make copies?
And I'll
Okay.
make copies.
Okay,
You already got your break.
so we'll talk fire
We'll
first
have
then.
Peter
How's
make
talk fire.
copies.
that? Okay.
Ready, I'm ready.
Really fight for the seat.
What's the tab number?
Well, here, do you want to
10.
take this in? That's the ambulance
I'll
one. Okay.
All right, so we'll start with fire.
All right, so
Great.
on the fire side, there's really, as far as the operating side of things are concerned, pretty much stable as it has been. We do have, as you notice, a couple of warrant articles in there for a major job that has to take place with one of our engines, where we've had pretty much of a big breakdown. Still operating, but it won't be passing its inspection this year. I know that for a fact, which then creates a safety hazard using the apparatus. Do you want me to go into that a little bit at this time?
I would mind, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
This is the article ATM 1524 for the pumper truck?
Right, yeah, for the work on that. Pretty much what happened, the apparatus is designed to work as a manifold. When it's on a hydrant where water comes in, we boost up the pressure as the RPMs go up, on the engine, so you get the water delivery to the scene. Another fashion in which water is delivered to the engine is through you suck the water out of a pond.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately for Georgetown, where basically 100% of the town is serviced by pressurized fire hydrants, that's not a really major problem for us, but it would be if we had something occur where we needed a lot of secondary means of water, like another apartment house fire, some big event, with we'll say an overturned fuel tanker or something on 133. We would need to get water from as many different resources as possible, and you do that through what is called drafting, which is you pull the water out of a source such as a pond or a stream, and goes into the engine, and then it gets pressurized and sent out to the fire hoses. Well, the problem that we have is that particular feature has basically pooped out. The engine is a 2003, and it's not unusual for a piece of apparatus this age to start experiencing these big ticket repair jobs. What happens now is we tried to take the engine down because we noticed this, it was around just before Thanksgiving. We saw water one night. It was a cold night. We had the engine sitting out on the pad at the fire station, and we do this thing called circulating the water, which when it's hot outside or too cold outside, we push the water through the tank and through the pump to keep everything going so that running water will not freeze. So we had it outside pumping like this. I left the firehouse about 8:30 in the evening. Everything was running fine. The engine was sitting at the end of the driveway there, no problems. Half hour later, the guys came out to put the truck away. There was water spewing everywhere. And that comes primarily from this thing called packing, which is kind of like, if you think of it like in terms of gauze that's used to stop bleeding, this stuff is kind of the same thing. It helps keep all of the pressurization within the pump, and it's a absolutely critical, vital piece in the pump system itself. And what happened was all the water was leaking out. A few days later, we took the engine down to Rock Pond and attempted to see if we could pull water out of Rock Pond. Now, normally, that engine would pick up what they call draft. It would pick up the draft within literally in seconds. And we were watching the water. We could see it come up through the hose. It would get in there, and as soon as it would hit the pump, we would shut off an electric priming motor. And that should be enough to keep the water. You almost get like a Venturi type of an effect begins to occur where the water just comes flowing through. Because that hacking and some other lines have basically, fractured, would not keep the draft. That we could watch the water just go right back down through the hose. There's us old timers know some tricks of the trade that we can overcome that by opening up discharge valves at the same time we're asking for water to come into the pump. And the leak is so bad, it's not happening. Even with doing that, because I had a firefighter on the bumper mounted nozzle discharge, and I said, open it up. We're trying to pull the draft on it. It would not keep the draft. As soon as we let off the priming motor, which is the critical component in the process, the water would just go right back down into the pond again. So I've had a couple of gentlemen come in from pump companies to take a look at everything, and there's thank you. There's a number of issues that need to be corrected on the engine, of which this pump is part of it. There's been a chronic problem with an electric valve that we have on it, which is used to charge our big fire hose, what we call large diameter hose, which is our supply lines. And there's a piece in there that's called an actuator valve. Not that really means anything to you, but it's a piece, it's part of the valve system that will not operate. When we had the fire down on Charles Street last March, when we went to charge the lines, the pump operator comes over to me and says, I can't charge the hose lines. As a result, we had to back everybody away from the fire building for a few seconds. We actually had to shut down the water supply coming in from the hydrant in order to be able to open up that valve. That valve should open just with a flick of the switch. And I talked to a few neighboring fire chiefs about this issue because I know everybody has experienced it. And although in the fire service trade, we like to take advantage of electronics, and modern techniques as much as possible. This is one of those things, it's just not suited, these electric valves. Byfield bought a used engine a couple of years ago, and they actually, a year ago, had to wind up and had all of the valves changed over from electronic to manual. And that's less that can break in the future. So that would be part of the repair work that has to be done on this engine. The engine right now is in service. It was our primary mutual aid piece for going to towns like Boxford and such. Boxford has no hydrant system, so you pull up at a scene there, you have to be able to find a water supply, and that's where the drafting of the water comes in from. That engine stays in town now. Engine 5 will have to go in its place. And that's what we've had to do several times. Same thing with Rowley. We have to be careful where we're going with it. So it is an absolutely just a vital repair that has to take place. For the National Fire Protection Association pretty much puts the standards together for the fire service, otherwise known as the NFPA. And part of what we have to do annually for the NFPA and also for our ISO rating for the town, that's the insurances, the insurance rating for businesses and homes. We have to make sure that we are showing proof positive that we're doing these certifications on our pumps in addition to a lot of other items. This pump will not pass. No question in my mind. This pump will not pass that, and that could, if the ISO decided to come in this year, we're going to be up a creek without a paddle. We will not be able to supply the data nor have a truck that's capable of doing what it's supposed to do.
And it's $12,000?
Right now, about the best price that I've gotten on it has been has been just under 11,000. And I'm waiting for a quote to come back from a company we've dealt with many years up in Maine. And, but I'm sure it's gonna be probably pretty close to what that is.
Mike, balance in reserve fund right now is 58. That's the numbers I have after the last transfer, 31,000.
Yes.
So we're at 58. What,
I mean,
Do we-
if it's that important,
if it's that important, should we do
should
reserve?
we, do it with the reserve fund?
What are your thoughts on that, and where you see other accounts coming in?
Well, I don't see anything of high priority or, you know, all the other accounts seem to be running. The ones that we've been having trouble with in the past are okay. Insurances and utilities, things like that.
And legal, no legal things
No,
you
we're-
think
we're
could jump up
fine
and
with
bite us?
legal. And the other, yeah, no, everything seems to be on target. So, you know, that's one way to do it, or, you know, because, well, it might be the only way to do it unless we take advantage of the opportunity to spread our, spread the snow and ice over a couple-year period.
Yeah,
I don't
is that
know.
the deal,
That's
that's
not-
come down to, that we can spread this year's snow and ice deficit over a couple of years to pay back. However, if we end up with a year like this year, next year,
Then you-
we're gonna be
then you're in the
doubly.
soup.
Right, exactly.
Or any portion thereof. I
Or-
mean, we can leave something.
Yeah, you could, I suppose, but.
We could leave something and
Yeah, you
and
would
know
be
that that would
spread a
have to
portion
be
of that.
free cash and fall
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
too appropriate to pay snow and ice then. At least it gives us that option. Okay. So that's really, that really is your big ticket item, so we're not looking at any other
The other thing,
big things on your, because,
well, we have the revolving account, which has been $10,000, and that's for the repair and maintenance on the fire alarm system, the master box system. We've been experiencing, because the system is very old, and it's exposed to the elements all the time, we've been almost overspending this account every year. And the system's old, it's over 100 years old. It's very reliable, you know, unlike most things that get to that age. This works, you know, it doesn't work with microwave towers or anything fancy. It's just plain old copper wire that connects to the buildings that have the master boxes, which is like all the schools and a lot of businesses in town. And the repairs have been extremely costly. Knock on wood, we've been very lucky so far. We had a very bad first part of the budget year with the expenses. But you can see, I don't know if you have the same document, but over the years, in 2000, in calendar year, this is calendar year, not fiscal years, but in calendar year 2012, we spent over $13,000. In calendar 2013, we spent, again, over $13,000. And for the calendar year of 2014, we had spent just a little over $11,000. And we do some of the maintenance funding with a maintenance fee of $250. That goes out to everybody that has a master box. Organizations such as the schools and like that don't get charged that fee, but the apartment houses pay the fee. Trestleway, you know, places like that, they pay the $250 fee. Of course, we've also had some issues with collecting people on those fees as well. And in fact, we're getting ready. I just talked to one of my guys yesterday about getting a second round of billing out, because we have about a half a dozen that haven't paid their money for 2015, and we sent the bills out in December. So they're a little slow getting to us. So that's where we're looking at, you know, at a $14,000 figure. Not that we're anxious to spend that amount of money, but just all we need to do is in the next few weeks have one of our springtime windstorms come through, take out the lines, and, you know, we'll just be racking up the costs, again and again and again.
Okay, so you want, the revolving fund, you wanna put it up to 14,000, but you
Correct.
have enough revenue coming in though?
No,
We
no,
don't need
that's the thing, the revenue coming into it has
Is it-
been roughly around 9,000. And that's, you know, that's been the issue. And
Maybe you should up it. I know you're having trouble collecting the 250.
actually, we're not allowed to.
Oh, is that right?
250 is the maximum we can charge, by what the state law tells us.
So is is the difference between what you're bringing in and what's going out reflected in your budget anywhere?
No,
No.
no, not at this time. We have looked at options of going over to, you know, like a microwave type of setup. They call them wireless setups. The cost to us would be probably close to about $15,000. And then places like the schools and everybody else that has it would also be spending a large amount of money because
Yeah,
it
for
works on a
different
microwave, you know, tower type setup.
How about using, like, instead of copper, is there any way you
Well,
can
that's what I mean.
tie in through Fios or Comcast?
Through fiber
Using their
optic.
fiber optic
Um,
system.
you know,
You may be able to
I've
keep
never heard
the
of anybody
same-
doing that.
If they could do it, you might be able to keep the same equipment and just use a different transmission method.
Yeah, because it
Hold
works. See, what happens is the system, right now, if the telephone lines go down, if the fiber optic goes down, which it does go down,
Occasionally, yeah.
you're out of business.
Yeah.
We have, and this is what occurred, if you remember back, I think it was 2010, 11, something like that, we had that big windstorm that blew through, Chief, you remember that? The one that-
He's
with the
not
He's not here.
generator?
He left.
Okay, we had the big windstorm that blew through town, all of town lost power for about 18 hours.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Everything was down except for the master box system,
Oh, really?
because we have a series of, they're like truck batteries that are in the fire station. And that is enough juice to power the entire town. And that's why it's such an extremely simple system. And it is so reliable. I mean, just like I said, people talk about, you know, going over to wireless and microwaves and all this kind of stuff. The startup costs on that is just astronomical. And the maintenance costs can be killers too. I know a lot of towns have gone over to it, much bigger towns. I've looked at what it would cost to just basically junk our system and just say, do away with it altogether. The amount of money would be somewhere around $30,000 just to disable our system. And then the ripple effect it would have throughout the community, the schools would all have to pay, you know, seek out and purchase fire monitoring, you know, from a monitoring company. So, and that's, you know, a reoccurring charge that they would be up against. So you're really kind of behind the eight ball with this whole system. It's a good system, but it's old,
So but it is specifically just for fire alarms.
just for fire alarms. Yep, that's all it carries. Yep. You see the street boxes like in the
Yep.
street, you know, that's part of the
didn't know
system.
Oh,
they
it's
had
that.
use-
It's all the street boxes, too.
Yep, yeah,
And it's
all
not,
that.
nothing for ambulance. Let's see if there's a little, nothing, okay.
Nice thought, but you really couldn't be working on it because it wouldn't be ambulance related.
I'm always trying to look for.
So that's,
Yeah, you
yeah, that's the skinny on that.
Okay,
uh,
so you're basically $5,000 short on that.
Yeah,
And your salaries are going up because of the increase for firefighters.
well, what we're doing,
Is that
I'm
what
actually
you're-
able to work it out so that, as far as the dollar and cents side of it is concerned, because my salary is gonna be split
Yep,
between the fire and ambulance. You take my salary right there, that's, you know, half and half that's going out. We have the money that we've been spending for our per diem coverage. And, you know, as I work the numbers through, we can have, and where I'm, want to put on two full-time people, we're actually able to take advantage of those differences in the numbers, plus the money we have for paying per diem staffing, and make it all happen. because one person will come out of the ambulance budget along with half of my salary, and then one person comes out of the fire side. See, right now, all we do is pay for the per diem staffing on the ambulance after hours. And our retained earnings have been so good, plus we've been so good as far as our expenses are concerned. We've been able to keep our expenses under control, and because of the 2 new ambulances, or basically you can call them brand-new ambulances, because the cab and chassis is what's gonna cost you the most money because of the engine. Because we've got a new one that came in November, the other ambulance is currently out being worked on. That is a huge amount of money that we're gonna be saving in repair work.
Yeah.
Past couple of years, those ambulances were costing us, as much as $15,000-$20,000 for repair work. So we're able to save a whole lot of money and still have some money left over from retained earnings to go towards, 5-7 years down the road when we are gonna be looking at possibly replacing trucks again.
Okay, so Mike, on the fire department side, we've got wages of $345,000. That is just half of the chief's salary,
Yes.
plus, because the detail doesn't show it, so it's half the chief's salary, plus the 2
Oh, yeah.
firefighters.
Actually, it shows that it just went.
It's on another page.
Yeah, there's a second page that shows
see,
the
it's
breakdown.
here.
I gotcha. All right, so that
It's
totals.
in the column next to the numbers.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the bottom line is still
Still.
345.
345, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's on the fire side, and on the ambulance,
I'm very glad you brought that to me.
209,930.
All right, so you need all right, so underneath, I'm looking at the warrant articles that you have before we get into the ambulance. You've got the fire alarm revolving fund, which you're short 5,000.
Yeah.
And where have you been coming up with the 5,000 to pay, the difference for the costs?
If
Out of the budget?
Well, yeah, it would have to come out of my own budget. That's what has wound up happening in the past. The gentleman that we use for our fire alarm work, he's extremely understanding and flexible with us, and has allowed us to carry it forward.
Okay.
So we've kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's what's been
Yeah.
happening the past several years. So that's why the calendar year looks so high, but we've been able to shove it from one year to the other.
And then you've got a thermal imaging camera for 15,000.
That's an upgrade, and a good
Ours are
example.
still working, aren't they? The ones you have still working?
Well, don't talk to the guys that were on the fire this morning, because, in fact, we're over there right now trying to fix one of them. The charging system's just not working. The units are tired, because they were some of the original ones, which are close to 15 years old, in a couple of cases. These are the cameras that, we use to see through the smoke. We also use it, like as an example, today, we were trying to find a hot spot where the fire was.
Yeah.
And, it'll help us. We've actually used them. You can look at a wall, and we've had a fire behind the wall that would have gone undetected had we not used a thermal imaging camera to see a heat signature inside the wall.
I
And
know
be
you
able
used
to-
it on my chimney to see what the fire was.
Yes, yeah, we
exactly.
use it shimmy that night. That's one of the most common times that we use it, because they get up past the mantle and we don't get a clear shot being able to look up the chimney. And so by going up in each room inside the house, and then on the outside of the house, we can scan up the chimney, we can scan along the sides to see if anything looks unusually hot. So that's, and then of course we use it as part of search and rescue too, when we're on a search in a building looking for anybody.
Okay. Then we're not gonna talk about the fire truck today.
And the other thing was that the calibration system on the gas meters.
That's the one with
The gas meters, we, Deputy Ricker was able to secure a grant last year for several new meters. It was a fantastic opportunity that we were able to take advantage of that didn't cost us anything. We were able to replace a lot of our aging meters, and we were also at the same time able to standardize the meters. So instead of having, one model in the engine and one model in the ladder, we wound up being able to get everything that's the same. So no matter what rig you're in, the same gas meter is operating. These meters have to go through what they call a calibration process.
Yeah, explain what the meters are.
They're used for a number of different purposes. Carbon monoxide, which is one of the common gases that are given off when oil burners fail. Today, the fire we had this morning, we were using our carbon monoxide meters to see, if there was any residual left in the house, because we were going to allow one family to go back in. The other family was not going to be able to come back in their house, the two family where we had the fire. So carbon monoxide detects the levels that are in the atmosphere. You start to get up 35, what they call parts per million is how it does its metering. And you get up at 35 parts per million, our meters start to alarm that we're getting dangerously high. Now, the problem with carbon monoxide, it absorbs into your blood, and it forms on the blood. As you get more carbon monoxide introduced into your body, your ability to rationally think and react becomes affected by it because you're reducing the oxygen in your blood. As you get more advanced saturation in your blood, people start to become nauseous, they have headaches. Eventually, they turn a cherry red color, keel over, and are not breathing. And we call it the silent killer. And that's why now there are carbon monoxide detectors required in residential homes. The state is working through a bill for statewide to require carbon monoxide detectors in schools as well as businesses. And if I remember correctly, the new school will have carbon monoxide system in it. So that's that particular feature. Natural gas. We have been, I can't even begin to think of how many natural gas leaks we've been on and propane gas leaks we've been on in the past few weeks. Natural gas tends to rise when it's released in the atmosphere, and propane tends to sink. So both of them can cause a multitude of problems. And these meters will tell us where, and we can actually trace it as it starts to go up. We know we're getting nearer to the source. Oxygen levels. Right now, the air we're breathing has 21.5% oxygen. If you go as little as 19%, that's not a whole big reduction. That actually starts to affect people, that reduction in oxygen content. Again, gets down into lower percentages, and it starts to affect your ability to think and react properly, and eventually will cause death if it goes down too low. The meters are also go after hydrogen sulfide, otherwise known as HCN. Hydrogen sulfide is one of the gases that's given off after post-burning of material. I have a meter in my vehicle, the chiefs carry them, we carry them in the trucks. So after we have a fire, two of the biggest gases that are given off in post-burn is carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide. Hydrogen cyanide is a bad news gas that will kill. Same thing for cyanide meters. Cyanide is a gas that, again, another one of these ones that is odorless, colorless, you can't see it, smell it, it's in the air, but as your body begins to absorb it, after prolonged exposure to it, it affects your liver and can cause complications there. These meters are, in some ways, this calibration system is kind of like what the police have for their radar equipment, where they have to get it calibrated every so often in order for it to remain within the legal limits that they need if they go to court. We need this, the calibration system. Right now we're doing it manually. It's a lot of units that have to get calibrated, plus it's the human factor that comes into play. Calibration machine, we also call it a bump unit. Basically sits on the counter. You put the meters in there. It can do multiple meters at a time. And you would have your calibrations, as I say, usually in most cases, they want these done at least monthly. And it would, be a great addition, to our inventory.
Is this something that can be shared with another department
Or another town?
or another?
Funny you ask that, because I looked into that to see if anybody has them. The problem is, this is particular to the meters that we have. There is a wide range of gas meters that are out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not
yeah.
like there's a standard that everybody,
Believe me, that was one of the first areas that I looked in, because we do have a pretty good number of items right now that we share in our region here. I know one of them is for our self-contained breathing apparatus. Each year, the firefighters have to go through what they call a mask fit test to make sure the masks are fitting properly. And NARAC bought several of these machines. Boxford has one. Boxford shares it with us, West Newbury, Groveland, Topsfield, and it's good. All I got to do is call up. I get a new firefighter coming in, or if I'm going to do the readings, for that that month or whatever, and we have it. We have it for as long as we need it. I have people trained on how to use it, and like I said, we share a lot of equipment, and I was hoping this would be one of those ones, but there's such a wide range of meters that are out there. It's not practical or possible right now.
seeing how this also has an effect on the body, can be paid for out of the ambulance fund? Mike is not shaking his head no at me quite yet, so.
Mike's smiling. Oh, there's the
Or he's,
shake.
or he's just laughing at
I
me.
think I saw the shake.
I mean, seriously, I don't know if is there, it's a very, very tight year, and it's like, and I,
It's
and I think we're gonna, because of the lack of free
Not a
cash.
medical device.
well, I hate to say this, Mike.
Is it a medical?
Well, it's not a medical device per se. It's not like our defibrillator. It's not in that same category, but it's used as far as diagnostics to see, do we have a patient
Yeah.
that could have been in a carbon monoxide atmosphere.
Carry it on the ambulance or the fire truck?
We actually do carry meters on our jump kits in the ambulance, so that we bring that red bag in your house. It has that meter is on.
Whoa, there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hate to say it.
No, I'm.
No,
I know you're trying to help me, Mike.
I'm all for loopholes.
I'm way over here. Mike is in the middle between me and Mary.
Mary's
No,
rough.
because we have bought, when the meters need to be replaced, which is the smaller, we have the single gas CO meters, and we carry them on our jump kits in the ambulance. They usually have about a 1-year life expectancy, and, those are, because it does sit on the ambulance, we've been purchasing those meters out of the ambulance budget.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah. Maybe split it.
Yeah.
Buy half of them for the, to split it.
Yeah,
down the
split
middle.
yeah.
Okay, if we can find
Split the
something,
baby.
How much is it?
it's 5,000,
It's 5,000.
but we're starting with zero.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Zero. Getting
Yeah,
up.
right, I mean,
I hate to
that's,
say it, but it is a good possibility. It's a big, it's a big chunk of money on both sides.
it's just
I understand.
just with the snow and ice, it's just a
It's
killer.
just nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
No,
nothing.
All right, we'll
I
think,
perfectly
see
well
if we can.
understand. So,
The other thing we could do is wait and see if, when we get to the special, when we get to May, if there's some money
Yeah.
we could use for that.
yeah.
Right. And it's
We
like
just
I
have to
said,
see.
there's the
you
reserve
know, we
fund
oughta-
too.
It sounds like it's a
Reserve fund.
priority.
It's an
To,
option.
It's,
yeah.
I'm just
yeah.
trying to see, thinking
Yeah.
outside of the box of every option might be available to us. Okay. Pumper and the defibrillators?
Yeah, the defibrillators, now this was a town-wide, what I want to call project that we're looking at. What we're attempting to do, right now, if somebody has a heart attack in here and drops and their heart's in ventricular fibrillation, which is heart quivering like this, we have no defibrillator in this building. Somebody comes into the water department and suffers cardiac arrest. Light department, nothing. We have them in the schools, but we don't have them in any of the other public buildings. We don't have them in the library. And, what did Ruth say for her? She gave some census numbers this morning.
40,000.
40,000 people that are
there's no-
passing through those doors.
There's no dollar amount. What are we looking at for
Oh,
dollars?
we're getting the quotes pulled together. The total amount, now this would be we're looking at 5 units, and startup costs, which would include training. We would take on and get everybody trained and certified in CPR. Let's see, it would take in CPR, their cards, the instructor, and everything. And then in addition, we're talking about roughly 140 employees. Altogether, about 15.5 is what we're looking at for total investment in this.
And how long is the life of this?
These have pretty much an indefinite life. The only item that has a life on it are the defibrillator pads and the battery. The batteries are lasting 2, 3, 4 years. In fact, when I went over to the firehouse at lunchtime, they found the battery on engine 1 for the defibrillator we carry on there is getting low, starting to get into a danger area. I forget I don't recall offhand what the price of the battery is. The pads generally have somewhere between a 2-year life expectancy on them, even though you don't use them, which we always shake our heads, something that's kept sealed in a foil sealed container.
I think it's the pediatric pads that are lower. I think the adult pads last longer. There's 2 pads usually.
Yeah, there's
The
2.
one we have at church, I know the pediatric pads only last for a short time.
Yeah.
The adult pads last
Yeah.
for about.
They're about 2 years for the PD pads and for the adult pads. But like I said, this was a project that we've stepped up to the plate on to get all of our town facilities and all of our town employees trained. Right now, police and fire are all trained, so that takes care of about 50 people, but we still got about another 140 that require the training. And that's 2 like half-day type sessions to get them trained.
So how many units altogether with the 15?
5, it'd be 5 defibrillators.
5. Okay. I'd put down. Okay. Any other questions on the fire department or CIP articles? The ambulance fund.
Yes. Nothing new and unusual, with the ambulance fund, other than just, one person would be funded through the ambulance. And as I mentioned, on our retained earnings, our budget figure in there basically will put, keeps minimum of 20 grand aside, earmarked for replacement.
That's what the 20 on the bottom is, yeah.
Yeah, ambulance replacement, yep.
Yep.
All right, so you've got going up, the tuition's going up, EMT school,
I'm sorry, what was that question again?
tuition, EMT school, it's at 95.20,
Which one are you at? Oh, okay.
53.20.
Yep. I put that up a little bit more because we're getting a lot more interest from non-EMTs in the department about taking the training. Right now, we've got roughly 26, 27 people that are trained. We have about another 6 that are expressing an interest. And where the classes are ranging anywhere from $1,000 to about $1,300. We try to send them into the best price local guy, which is about $1,100, $1,200, which is he gives a discount since we're doing all of our work through him, so he gives us about a $200 discount.
And what about other purchase services?
And other
Couple lines
purchase
down.
services, that takes in, with our defibrillator pads and such, also takes in an upgrade we're looking to do on this one particular meter that, have you ever heard of a pulse oximeter? Pulse oximeter, like, we come in and you're having chest pain, we'll put this little device, and you see it like when you go to the emergency room or something, clamps on the end of your finger right here and measures your heart rate and your oxygen saturation. This one's a little bit fancier because it also measures the amount of carbon monoxide that may be in your blood. So it's right now there's an upgrade because, as irony would have it, EMS director and his assistant have been, pushing me to try to do that replacement this year. And I had said, I don't want to venture into here. I did not calculate this into the budget last year, or I should say for this year. And the other night, we had an 18-month-old baby that came in as in cardiac arrest. This device would have been a critical diagnostic tool for us to use. And of course, you can imagine they're back on my case again about
Yeah.
getting it upgraded. But I had
this
put it
the-
in the $1,500 upgrade for this.
All right, $1,500?
Yeah,
That's a
Well,
one-time
it's for
cost?
2 units. I'm sorry, yeah, 2 units, $1,500 each. That's the 3,000.
Is this a one-time cost?
No, it's a one, I'm sorry, did you say one-time cost?
One-time cost?
Yeah, one time, yeah, I thought you said monthly. Yeah, one-time cost.
And then the office supplies are up?
Office
Is
supplies,
Conservation Commission coming stealing your office supplies too?
no. If you're watching, no. No, what I'm trying to do is, ever since we put the ambulance into service, I've been trying to segregate out as much of expenses that I can directly relate to the ambulance. So that way, try to, instead of and like for an example, the copy machine. So I take, when we get the bill for the copy machine, and I basically have been just splitting it in half,
Okay.
because each of them, each side of the house is using it. So, try to keep that split like that.
Well, I guess the other concern is because you look down at vehicular supply and medical supplies, those have gone down.
Yes, biggest thing is because of the new ambulances,
It's repair costs.
where we were getting
Well, I'm looking
slammed.
at medical surgical supplies too.
And the medical surgical supplies, we've been able to set up an inventory system. Jeff, you know Jeff
Yeah.
Manning. Jeff has done just an outstanding job of putting together a tracking system. And
Sounds like
it's
him.
the most manual of systems. We have a clipboard that hangs in the supply closet. We have everything calculated out to what we use on a monthly basis. And somebody comes in and he tracks this by quarter. So like they went into the bag on engine 1 today, they were doing an inventory on it. And they found the pediatric mask that we have was just, it had gotten crunched down. So they replaced it. They put a strike on the inventory sheet, because the inventory, it's not a helter-skelter grabbing of inventory when we need it. It's all laid out. This is what we use, for a adult mask, baby, and so forth, right on down the line. So we know exactly how much at any one time we want to keep in stock. So instead of having 40,000 4x4 bandages, we know we only need to keep 100. I mean, that's a kind of a gross example, but that's how finite that we're keeping our inventory tracking, and it's been holding very, very well. And that's why I knocked down the amount of money, because we've made all the big purchases
Yep.
that we really foresee using on the ambulances, because everything we buy is ×2. So we've made all those purchases. That equipment is all in place now.
What about revenue? What is your revenue coming in at for the ambulance fund?
In fact, I ran over and I got my retained earnings right now is about, after I take out everything, is about 187,000 currently in my retained earnings.
For FY15?
That's where I am right now for my retained earnings.
Okay, what's your revenue projection for 16?
Pretty much, I don't know where I put it. Bear with me a second. Here we go. Oh, in this book. I just did my sheets up yesterday through the end of January. Right now, we're tracking pretty much right on target. We'll probably, our net revenues are probably going to come in somewhere around 300,000 for the year. Right now, our net revenues are tracking at 209,000 as of March 1st. And we have brought in about 166,000.
Okay, so the revenue
That's-
for 16, you're expecting it to be 300,000?
Yeah, yeah. The
Is that
revenues,
calendar or is that?
the revenues are always lagging behind
This one.
between the net. What happens is, well, Robin can explain it too. The revenue, the net revenue figures come in, and that's what Comstar, who's our billing agent, that's what they put bill forth, to the patient. Then you gotta wait for the insurance companies to pay the individual, whatever co-pays they may require, and then that's what comes into us. Generally speaking, there's about 45-day lag, and I think that's by law, I think they're supposed to have it, but it's about a 45-day lag between the time that the patient gets billed and we see the money. It's
Okay,
about
'cause-
45 days.
So if your revenue is only 300,000, you're basically gonna be using some of the retained earnings to fund the budget for next year?
Yeah, yeah. Right now, the revenues that we've received have been just shy of $900,000 since the start of the ambulance in 2012.
Okay, Mike, can we do something similar to what Lou had to be able to show the monies in and out on the bottom for the ambulance, so we can have the same thing to show revenues coming in and out? I guess, is that really what we wanna be doing, is using 31,000 of retained earnings for the budget?
Well, the thing is with retained earnings, it's so up and down. It's driven by business.
Right.
We've had a busy season that hasn't stopped. February was actually our slowest month that we've had all year. And that was, the earnings there, the net revenues were, we get about 20, just shy of $21,000.
And that $20,000 for ambulance replacement is within retained earnings?
Yeah.
Or is it in a separate account? It's
Well,
in-
no, that's all kept together. It's
Okay,
not
yeah.
like taken into a separate account. That's all just kept in the enterprise fund.
Yeah, that slipped by me, that should not be a budgeted item.
The ambulance replacement.
No, that's so no, it shouldn't be in the operating budget.
I mean, I've always put it in there every year, and I think you,
I take it out every
yeah,
year.
and you take it out every year, because we always have that conversation.
Yeah,
I just remembered.
didn't take it out this year.
No, I understand that. I just,
Oh,
it's
okay,
just,
but-
it's another one of those, I guess, as I'm looking,
Yeah.
similar to the water, with the capital items, I think it would be also helpful if we had the showing for capital expenses, the same on the bottom of the water, showing that, like, that one $3,000 purchase, anything that may be just really like a one-time purchase that's coming out of here, so it's not really the budget items, showing that we're purchasing some items, but we're using
Yeah,
retained earnings.
But
It's a capital
3,000
expense.
is pretty
Not much money.
pretty tough to be calling a capital expense.
No, I
That
understand.
really is an operating expense, even
Yeah.
though it
Right.
might be a
Even,
one-time.
it's a one-time.
Yeah, and if you were to look at, if you take that out, we're actually at 311 on our
Right, you take out the 20.
projected budget.
So the 11 over 2
No, but
million.
it seems to me though, if you are consistently bringing in 300 and you're consistently spending over 300, at some point the retained earnings are gonna go away, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So far, we haven't eaten
Yeah.
into them. And remember, DOR comes in each year
No, I know,
to
I know,
certify
it's
our budget against,
to me, there's,
Eventually
there's,
gonna be.
there's something wrong there, but, or a disconnect or
Well, they
something.
certify the retained earnings. They
yeah.
don't-
Yeah.
But they,
Right.
They
they
don't-
look at the budget too, Mary was telling me. They look at what our proposed budget is, and to see if the projected retained earnings is gonna equal it out or do better. That's how Mary explained it to me.
Mhm.
I mean, because we're looking at that, and we're looking at the possibility of splitting the calibration. I think it would be,
Yeah.
I think it would be nice, even if you're not gonna call it capital, but almost like just a one-time expense. I know with the new chart of accounts. Just so we can see really what the actual annual budget is, which is not inclusive of these one-time expenses, is really what. But, like Jim said, if we keep using retained earnings to fund the ambulance. It's not sustainable if it continues like that.
Right,
No, absolutely correct.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Chief, are the ALS fees the fees that you pay for, like Byfield for paramedic?
Correct.
It's really 57,000?
That's combined. We're tracking probably about 40 altogether. Because I just, in fact, when I went back to the station, I picked up that sheet to see where we were. And let's see. Yeah, Byfield right now, year to date, fiscal year to date, has been 14,000. So we're running under on our estimates for Byfield, and we're probably about 16,000. I didn't get the summary at the bottom, but about 16,000, because with our charges to other ALS services.
So that's 30 total at the moment.
At the moment, yeah.
Could go to 40 maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
This, a lot of this, being able to manage this better has been due just to our experience level going up, and the crews understanding what's a true need for an ALS intercept. Because the thing is, if you work for a company and the only time you get paid is when you perform your service, you're not going to jump into my ambulance and say, they're all right.
You're gonna get on.
Right? So
gonna get
our crews are doing a real good job of evaluating the patients and basically calling off ALS if they're not needed.
Yeah.
Have you thought about getting a paramedic license?
Yes, I have. And when you talk about retained earnings, what I spend for ALS intercept charges
Yeah.
and what we would have to spend, it's like this.
Okay.
Oh, it's
Figure about $10,000 to $15,000 to train one person. Figure on top of it then would be the ALS equipment, such as the 12 lead scopes and everything. They're about $25,000 to $30,000 each. Drugs on top of that. So my game plan originally was to hope in 2015
To
that
go-
we would begin ALS service.
Yeah, you can't.
But when I'm spending 40,000 here, and I can't even come close to that, and it would, the amount of time it would take us to recoup that, there's no cost savings in there for us.
Do you guys have contracts with them so that are the fees gonna go up for the intercept fees?
Actually, our contracts, I think, are coming up at this September, I believe it is. I'd have to look.
I'm done.
Alrighty. Anybody else?
Nope.
Mike, do you have anything to add? Great. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Steve.
Okay,
Thanks, Al.
folks. A, B, C. No.
No, save the best for last, let him go. Let him go.
He's gonna be quick.
Chief, I like missed you.
And look, there are 9, 10, and 11. Isn't that convenient?
I wanna see him sweat a little bit.
Dun, dun, dun.
We can make it happen.
I know you can. That's why I'm saying.
He just wants to see us make it use right.
Look, there's no snow this weekend.
Oh, there's plenty out there.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Hi,
so
my
we're at
name
tab
is
11.
Peter Durkee. I'm the highway surveyor in town.
Alrighty. So you got a bunch of changes going on.
Well, the biggie is the traffic light, street light, traffic light charges. Where were they in
They've
15?
been everywhere.
They started out at,
They started out as a separate line item in the
Yeah.
budget, right? Did they? Yeah.
and
Once
then they
upon a
went to, I
time.
think, town hall, and then they made it to my budget. But they didn't make it to my budget last year.
Oh.
They didn't make it in any budget.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, is that why we're putting him in a budget?
But we adjusted the budget, right?
Yeah.
We adjusted.
Yeah.
And
I
we
vaguely
need to
remember
adjust
that
that
now.
budget again
Oh,
because
yes.
the numbers that I think they, The total load to the light department in fiscal year was 36,568.
Which fiscal year?
For this coming fiscal year, that's how much, when we figure out what the bill's gonna be each month,
Yeah.
when you add them all together. And it was only funded for 35,000. So we're short, $1,568.91.
So that's why you did the 41, you want a little breathing room, is that it?
Well, if something happens to the traffic lights in the center of town, somebody's gotta pay for them.
And that's part of this?
Yep.
Okay.
Are we,
What's the figure again, Pete?
The amount allotted for this year was 35,000,
right now.
but the amount that I need in there is 36,568.91. So it's short, 1,568.91.
That's what you're.
For this coming,
This,
Fiscal
the
year.
year we're in
Currently,
right
we're
now.
and it won't be coming out of my budget, so.
No.
That's just for the energy, or is that for? what are we
That's for
talking?
the streetlights and the
Electricity.
traffic lights.
Just for the energy.
For the
It
power.
includes
For the
repairs
power,
for the
right.
traffic lights, not the streetlights. The streetlights are taken care of by the light department. This is just the energy, the bill for the lights, and the bill for the lights for the traffic lights, and to repair them if they need repairing.
Going to
Are
every
we
budget.
expecting, and I asked this, and I know before you said we weren't really, and Wayne has said this, are we still on track, not expecting a huge increase in electricity or any of this stuff before, with Ngrid and everybody else going up like 37%?
I know that Dave
Is our
is,
light department still on track?
he's trying to do the best he can.
Okay.
So, he'd like to give free electricity to everybody, so.
No, I mean, it's just something to keep in mind for next year if, Ngrid and all the other ones where we buy it from, that could have an effect on us.
Yeah.
Because of where we're buying it from. Okay.
As I thought the gas is coming down, though, even though they
it's
had
going back up now.
contracts.
It's going back
Even though they
up.
had contracts,
Yep.
they're not long term, I understand, or are they? Those guys, so, it may be coming down, I guess is my point.
On the bottom of your first page, Peter, you have line 5110 did not include raise for new hire.
Yes. So I don't know contractually if that has to happen, or, cause he's not in the union yet. So it's a 6 month, it's a 90-day for the town, but to be in the union, it's 6 months. So,
So when is the 6 months up?
I would say May or April or May.
Of this year?
Yep.
So you gotta figure out how much money do you need, how much money's needed for this year.
No, I'll be fine this year.
You'll be fine this year, okay, but then we could figure in, that the raise for him, according to his contract, should be figured into the FY16 number.
That's why I.
The
added-
raise, I mean,
His
his,
raise.
So I'm good this year, because
But
we had,
your FY16 number does not reflect it.
it doesn't reflect,
it did not include it, but now it does.
All right, so the 342,000 does include.
That's why I
his-
changed, yeah,
Okay, I just
it
wanna
was
make sure.
changed, yep.
oh, okay.
No, I'd asked Mike this before. What is the average, Mike, for snow and ice over the past 10 years?
Oy.
I-
Sorry.
Or do you have it, Peter?
Well, I
I know Mike
may
had it.
not have last year's numbers, but, it's over
Oh, you
here.
do? Thanks, Mike.
Mike has a graph.
I have from 2004 to 2014, so I do have last year's numbers.
What's a 10-year average?
183,535. The big year was
11?
2011.
Yeah, yeah,
And then this one.
in this year. Where are you?
And this is just my numbers for the highway department. It doesn't include the school or the fire department. We're at negative 271,925 as of
271,925.
March 6th.
And that includes all bills, even though you haven't received them in yet?
No, that's of all as of March 6th, and most of the bills are in.
I was gonna say,
So
what
I
bills
don't
are outstanding?
I don't have anything large outstanding. So as of March 6th,
It's negative 271, over
Yep.
and above your
Yeah.
104.
yes.
Do you have some sort of sense of what the remaining bills are that you're expecting in?
Not, like, I think, all my subcontractors have given their bills in. I just received bills, we just did bills this past week, so I would say this is real close.
How's your salt shed?
It's got salt in it, the sand shed has more in it, but the salt shed has, you know, I think I may have to order, you know, maybe 3 or 4 more loads this year to get us through, just, you know, cause you
Really?
don't know, so.
Excuse me, Peter, did you say that did or did not include, I know, keep asking, is the roof shoveling?
No,
Okay, I have all the numbers.
Okay, so what have you got?
This is for this year, Mike?
Yeah,
Okay.
this was as of last week. Peter gave me 365,077 as a total spent.
Right,
Okay, so you take out 104,
right.
which is already budgeted, and you have 261,077.
Right,
So you add 113,
113,000?
yeah, 113,000, 1,700, and 1,900. That's the snow removal for the town hall and the safety building.
113,000?
Yes.
What was that for?
The removal of the roofing, snow off the roof of the schools.
So they don't collapse again.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
So the total
$1,000.
deficit is 377,677.
We have
370.
365 in free cash, right?
No, we have 385,154.
Mike, can you give me, wait a minute, can you give us a 377 number again?
It isn't
Good.
377, it's 388 now.
377,677.
677 because Peter just came in with another $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that.
All right, so
Oh,
370,
Now we're, yeah, if you add, we're about, well, with my numbers, we had 7,477 left out of the 385,154.
all right, we're already past 385, 154 is the
Yeah.
free cash.
Yeah, so you're at 388
And
something.
we're at 388, 525 right now.
So you probably would have to push something forward, but maybe
God.
not a whole lot, I would hope.
Are you allowed to push, so you can push out
This year.
the
This year
expense?
only.
Push out
This
this
year
year's.
only.
For how long? Over
One more year.
One more year.
year.
And this is a brand, this hasn't even passed. It's in a supplemental budget
Okay.
before the legislature. They
can't imagine that
anticipate
they
it
would-
passing. It
Fight
could
with
even
that.
pass with a 3-year instead of a 2-year. But right now, it's just 2.
Peter, is there any way you can get a handle on what your outstanding expenses are?
for snow and ice, yep.
Yeah, and especially to see really what do you need for salt. One of the things I would like to explore as we're going through the budget process is actually putting up the snow and ice budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think.
It's just that this is kind of like, we're going along too much and now it's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
now with a
10-year
bad
average
winter,
is
it's
183.
biting into our free cash, which we try to use for capital,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if a 10-year average is 183,
which is still pretty low.
it is low.
Yeah, I mean, if you, I would think maybe a 5-year average would be higher than that. It seems to be snowing a bit more the past few years.
Yeah. Donnie, did your
Yeah.
department have any
Even
snow
if-
and ice costs or not?
I had the 1,900 to remove the snow off the roof, which was included.
That was
in
your
this.
1900?
That's the 1,900, and then I've completed the IDA for the potential MEMA disaster.
Yeah.
So I was gonna present that at the
Okay.
budget. If you want that number, I could give that to you.
Yeah, what did you send in?
On Friday, I sent in for the entire town, schools, highway, police, fire, and town hall. I'm working with Ruth so I can add a supplement. She might have a small snow and ice removal number there. $433,073 is our total for our IDA, and IDA is an initial damage assessment.
Right.
And what's happening is the governor, if everyone's been watching, the governor is actually requesting from the President of the United States to declare the Northeast a disaster for those 4 events, from the end of January all the way to the end of February 22nd. However, it's never been done before that way.
Yeah.
FEMA has always said, one at a time,
Yeah.
and they started that process. I submitted an IDA for the blizzard. Blizzard Juno is the name of the blizzard.
And how much did you put in for that?
That was for only snow for 87. I'm sorry,
87,000.
114.
114?
114. However, they scrapped that IDA and they gave us new IDA numbers for the 4 consecutive storms.
No, well, right, no,
Right.
June, we're getting the Juno money anyway.
Yes, it's 114.
Yeah, 114,
I'm saying in total.
75% of the 114.
Correct.
Juno was
So
what, the
back
big
up
one
now.
on the
85,000.
23rd?
Yeah, you
So
went
that
really
we do
quick
get
for
state
some of these
funding,
people.
or federal funding.
We should be getting back 75% of the 114, because the Juno
about
storm has already
80,000.
been approved. And what the state is
Well, so
trying,
the state declares it a
MEMA's trying to
state
get the whole shebang put
It's a
through.
very rare occurrence to take a disaster of
Yeah.
this size and accumulate 4
4 different storms.
particular issues
Yeah.
into one. But you know,
It
they're
just haven't
using it as an
stopped.
unprecedented storm, so
Right.
maybe you could use unprecedented legislation, you know, and reviewing.
One
so
storm
that-
built on the other. You couldn't-
Right,
Because we have
Yeah.
clearance, I mean, those
disaster.
yeah, but
those
let's
roof
keep in
numbers
mind, we are
are
in
from
New
the
England
blizzard.
and it's snow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
But that's
exactly.
a little bit more than most times.
So, all right, so,
Anyway.
so at this point, I'm just saying, with the Juno storm of 114, we should be getting back roughly $85,000.
Well, yeah, exactly, so long as they don't, sometimes they narrow the numbers, and it's, I always, because our last storm, I had announced a particular number. They went back with Blizzard Nemo, and I love the names. Blizzard Nemo, we had submitted an IDA, and that number, Pete, they started narrowing hours off that storm. We lost, Pete, what did we lose, another 40 grand or something after they were done playing with that storm?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we were up around 100, we ended up getting like 68.
Okay.
So I don't try to bank on the number until they definitively give us, yeah.
No, I'm just thinking because this has to go into the general fund.
Correct.
And if there is a possibility of paying over 2 years,
Right, yeah.
we know
Yeah, right.
if we can get this money in, it'll be come in and certified.
Then we can pay it on
Free
Then
the
we
cash,
can pay whatever we.
Then we should
declare.
have thinking, so as opposed
Exactly.
to using whatever, if it's supposed to use the regular free cash that comes in this fall, so we can do
Right.
that
the
for the.
anticipated money.
Right, then
Right.
if we know the anticipated money is gonna be coming in, then we
Yeah.
kinda know in the back of our minds, it can't be set aside, but in the back of our minds, we know, hey, we've got a potential of X amount of dollars, even just say 50,000 coming
Right,
in, so therefore we know we can put 50,000 to snow and ice if they allow us to do it. Now we've got $50,000, we know
can
it's coming in to
do
pay
some
that
of these
bill,
things, yeah.
to move some of the things around, because we're already in the hole on free cash, $3,371.
right.
So,
We also don't know what the damage, once everything
Once
is,
things melt,
when
what we're
things melt.
hitting.
as one of my guys said, he says, well, the good thing with all the snow, nobody's really gone onto anybody's lawn. So nobody's really been plowing lawns or burns. Mailboxes are gonna be down because they've all been encased in ice, except for yours. So, but that's just it. I mean, no one knows the assessment of the damage until the snow melts.
At the roads.
The roads are
Oh,
a bad
that's
Roads
trouble.
are a
Yeah,
nightmare.
That's
And we
what-
don't have any free cash to give them for that.
Exactly.
I know.
Oy.
Well, the governor did just give us a bonus. So,
How much did you get back yet, extra for chapter 90?
do you remember that number, Mike? 100 and,
Around 100, it's
100.
over 100,000.
I thought it was around
A little
100.
bit over 100.
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
And that's just to fix roads specific?
Yep.
Roads or buying equipment to fix roads or something like that.
Anything, okay.
What?
But we,
I say the
we,
roads that I regularly travel are much better.
the first time we bought equipment was this year. We bought a hot box to put pavement in to fix the roads. And that's a $25,000 item, and we've never bought, out of chapter 90 with, equipment before, so.
How much did we spend last year repairing roads when the winter was over?
What?
Well, that 90 that you gave us, and I would say 280,000 more. We did the section of North Street, we did Andover Street.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Yeah.
I'm on that road a lot.
Which I don't know what we'll need.
it's not a lot. It's
Oh.
I mean, 100's certainly not going to
Yeah.
cut it.
I mean, the other thing is that a lot of the communities have started sharing equipment too. See if we can do some work in house because now you've got the hot box. We just bought we got a bigger track paver too. So
Yep.
that's one of the good things about a lot of the communities have started. Being able to move some equipment around, sharing. We can't really pay because there's no fund to pay. But it's like if
Yeah,
one
you can't.
community lends Peter, okay, what's in kind, and Peter has something else that another community has that hopefully we can save some costs that way as opposed to hiring big contractors to come in to fix something that might be smaller.
That's why it's important about the prevailing wage, if they, we met yesterday and talked a little bit about prevailing wage. If we could get a cap at, say, anything under $500,000, you don't have to pay prevailing wage, it would save us a lot of money.
Yeah.
I've had contractors come in work in Georgetown, and they live in the western part of the state, and they get 50-something dollars an hour in Georgetown. The same small town in the western part of the state, they're getting $30 an hour. And it's because we're in the prevailing wage rate of Boston, and we shouldn't be.
Right. It's very high, and I think Mike and I were talking about that yesterday, I think there really needs to be a big push, like, and I talked with one of the vice presidents in Mass Highway also to sit there and say, we did the big push with lobbyists on the Chapter 90 to get that Chapter 90 released and pushed through for the 300,000 over a year ago. I think there needs to be another big push on something like this, because the legislatures are just not, they're not going against the unions, and this is what's driving the cost of construction up. So and we could be utilizing those monies a lot better. I mean, I like the idea that North Andover, Andy Mailer came up with, first refusal, whatever, using local contractors and not have to pay them prevailing wage. So you're putting money back into a local contractor, into the local economy, and you're not paying a ridiculous amount of money, so. But,
I have a contract with a owner-operator for an excavator, and it's $1,000 a day, and you're not gonna find anybody to be,
Oh, wow,
touch
that's
that.
nice.
That's cheap.
That is.
that's cheap.
Because it's an owner-operator, he doesn't have to pay prevailing wage.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
'Cause
right,
he's
yeah, yeah.
That's cheap.
But you can't find a paving company that all the
Nope.
people are, family.
Owners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so, all right, so that's one of the things with snow and ice looking
Can I
back.
ask another thing about snow and ice while we're still on it? And Mike has this information because he has 10 years worth. I'm just trying to refresh my memory. If we bump up the snow and ice more than the 104, and say, some miracle happens and we don't use it, we just get that certified in free cash at the end, right?
Correct.
And then we get
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it rolls back.
The only thing
I
is
just-
you can't
I know you can't
reduce
go
it.
down.
You can't reduce that
reduce
line
I know
item.
you can't go down.
Right.
I got that one.
Well,
But I mean-
if you reduce it, you cannot deficit spend.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
So,
Is it just that particular year, or is it forever?
I think it's.
Ever.
I think it's forever.
if we,
That's nuts. That's another thing we gotta get changed.
well, that's, yeah, and that's
But
why.
I mean, have we ever in those 10 years gone below 104?
Oh, remember,
Well, you had
12,
it right there, right?
the year after the really big, there was
No.
a year where it almost didn't snow
saying
at
no.
all.
No, the lowest we had.
What was
Peter,
2012?
I've got 2012, the deficit was 40,460.
Really?
So even
you had to do a lot of
150.
sanding, I
So we
bet.
spend at least 150.
Yep.
I was gonna say, I mean, how much does it cost to fill up the salt shed?
I think, what are we paying?
60?
$61 a ton right now for salt.
How many do you buy?
Just to fill it, probably 18 truckloads. So,
And how many tons each truck?
30.
30.
25, we'll say.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, those
it's
eyes
expensive.
just opened.
Wow.
The
And
things you
that's-
learn.
And you know what?
That's if
And
it doesn't, not one flake falls.
And that's if you can get it.
Right.
It's been very difficult this year to get salt.
How come?
The main problem is that the company that usually wins the bids, even the consortium bids all over the place, is usually also on the state bid list, and they usually send the salt to Mass DOT first. So these guys, if everybody's having a bad winter, you run out of salt, all the little guys, all the surrounding
Get it.
communities don't get it. Because
Mass
there's
DOT
no
gets
salt
it.
to be had. No sooner does the salt come off of a freight liner this year, it's getting dumped on the ground and immediately getting loaded into a truck. It's not even sitting around.
We've
How do you
been
run out of salt?
We've been very lucky in
Been-
Georgetown because we have our contract with Granite State this year, and we're in a consortium with a bunch of other towns around. And the problem that they had this year was getting it here. We were fortunate enough to have Sam's Transportation in town, and they can haul salt for Granite State, Eastern Minerals. So I call up the owner and say, I have 6 loads sitting on the ground, can you get them here? And they get them here, and Granite State pays them to deliver it here. So it works out great because they have to come here anyways. And so we
Right,
were,
and it's just an Eastern Salt, who's the other big supplier, had the state bid.
and they have to, they're guaranteed they have to give them like 10,000 ton a day. So they get their 10,000 ton a day first before anybody else gets it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's not good.
10,000.
Yeah, a lot of communities who are kind of borrowing salt from each other.
Yeah,
this
I can
year.
imagine.
But anyway, okay, so I guess that's something, Mike, going forward to discuss. If the minimum is 150, the average is 183, what could we possibly think about?
To
Putting snow
me,
and ice.
over a few years, we gotta bump it up close
We
to
gotta,
200.
yeah, we gotta get
So do
something
like
in there.
35 to 35 or something like that, and get
mean,
it
we-
up close to 200,
Yeah.
so
You
that
know.
we're not draining free cash.
I mean, that's the thing, is draining free cash.
I mean, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's gone.
And we can't, and just, Mike, what is the
And the
percentage
winter's
on the
not
levy
over.
limit we have to have available in order to put it on next year's tax roll? There has to be a certain percentage available, right?
Not even a percentage, you have to have the dollar amount,
The dollar amount?
excess levy.
Yeah,
Whatever the excess
levy
levy
is,
is.
and we don't have any of that this year, right? So far,
Right, to
Yeah.
put it on the tax recap, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think our excess levy is like
How much?
4,000.
Oh, is it? Oh, for this year? Oh, yeah. No, I was thinking about next year.
Any other
Probably be the
questions?
same.
Really?
Peter, I'd like to have you come back at a future meeting to discuss Elm Street and to discuss all your, remember we discussed last time, what have you got for monies available, chapter 9, all these different things, because if we gotta start thinking about what has to happen.
Yeah, we gotta do
'cause you-
something.
We gotta do
Yeah,
something.
we do.
as of right now, we have through chapter 90 for engineering is $236,700, and that's already committed to Elm Street for design.
Bayside.
And I'm gonna be meeting with the designer next week to go over what they have already and make any changes. Then we'll be going to the residents and let them view the plans before it's finalized, and then they'll go to permitting. But the funding to do the project
Isn't there?
isn't there.
Right.
And, with the chapter 90 funds that I get in, if you look at other roads in town, I have the pavement maintenance program, and Elm Street wasn't at the top of the list. And I have roads that I spend a lot of money patching on right now. Last year it was Andover Street and North Street both of them were just a mess. And we were going out there many times
yeah.
filling potholes. And now they're somewhat fixed. Central Street is getting bad now.
Central Street is not good,
And then
yeah.
that's, we have Pond Street, Tenney Street, and Jewett Street that are also bad. So, it's not like we can, just throw in Elm Street and get it done. It's,
No, a plan
No,
has
no,
got
we-
to be put forward, we
Yeah.
gotta figure this out.
I don't know if
Is
anybody
there any
wants to.
grants or anything like that for Elm Street?
It would be way a ways.
Oh,
We're
it
in
would.
the 25% design stage right now for West Main Street to go from Moulton Street to the Groveland line, and that's probably 5 to 8 years away.
Oh, okay.
And
I
I
feel
think,
like that
I think
street's
any of the
been around
grants, things that are out there, like complete streets, that are stuff that's out there, but complete streets, and that was one of the things we were discussing yesterday, is that the state, in order to give you grant money for complete streets, they want you to put sidewalks on both sides of the road, and they want you to be a certain width, and it basically, and one of the problems with Elm Street, if you ever drive down there, a lot of the houses
The
are old.
houses are old.
There's
They're
not
right
like
on
a
the
road,
street,
It's not
yeah.
like big front lawns.
Yeah.
So that's one of the, and there's only a sidewalk on one side, and that's still not the typical, was it 4 feet or 5 feet wide, the sidewalks now?
5.
5 feet that they're requiring. So sometimes to get certain state grants, you'd have to basically wipe out people's front lawns.
And the
Whatever's
other
left
thing
to
we
them in
looked
order
at
to get
too
the
is
money to
Safe
build
Routes
the way
to
they want.
School.
Is what?
Safe Routes to School, we looked into that program too.
But they
Yeah.
wanted, same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, they did. Oh,
It's, it's ways away.
yeah.
But it's also, it's a matter of, they want all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would cost you more money to do that, and
Well,
in
and
the
it will,
end, it
because you
might
have
not.
the people who live on Elm Street up in Arms, because
Yeah.
they'd be, the
They'd lose
the
their
road would be up like 5
Like
feet
against
from their
their
door.
house.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Because they are close.
The right of way out there is 50 feet. So the town does own 50 feet out there. So,
but politically, it's not a,
Yeah, that probably.
politically, it's not a good idea.
I mean, if people knew how much the town owned compared to
Yeah.
where their house
Everywhere.
Yeah.
is, it would be, you could, because you can't have drive-up windows in town, but you could on Elm Street after, so.
So what you're saying is I can turn my house into a McDonald's?
Yes.
And get a drive-through
Yep.
then?
And it would be more money
Look at
for the
that.
town in taxes, So
By
everybody
opening a
wins.
McDonald's.
Yep,
Oh.
everybody
There you go,
wins.
thinking outside the box
Yep,
again.
and the kids, when they walk home, they got a place to hang out.
Goes back to the kids, the young generation. I'm in.
Children. Oh, you are priceless, Mr. Jerky.
Gonna be open 24 hours over there.
Yeah.
Drive there.
Well, I know you guys have had a long day, and
No, no.
and I
What else would you like?
appreciate
Any
it.
other information that you need us to know about, or?
I'm not going for any equipment this year. Plus, we don't have the funding for it. And I don't know how I knew there was going to be no funding, but I'll tell you, if I knew it was going to be like this, I would have gone to Florida for the winter. So, which that's another option
This
the
all
town
was
has.
fun?
Just close
Send
the
you to
town down. And
Florida?
no,
Everybody go to Florida.
everybody go. Just close the town down and just everybody go to Florida. Come back in April.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think,
Yeah.
Chief?
And our roofs would all be collapsed,
yeah,
probably.
well, insurance will cover it.
Oh, okay.
So,
And then we'll be at the whole town will be uninsured.
Any other questions for Peter?
oh, let
I'm
me
not
see.
even bad news.
I guess I'm not going to have a road machinery fund anymore.
No.
And the light department pays the brush machine through that. So how will that be paid?
Oh, nice question.
Bill them, put it in their indirect costs.
Yeah.
One way to do it.
And they just pay the vendor direct? Because
No,
how do I
they
get it
would-
into
they
my?
would- We would charge them, about $450,000 a year. That's for the health insurance and,
Okay.
you know, and
Just stick it in there.
other items. It was just, yeah, I think that's what we could do.
And that included in his budget, right? And only the money would come from that, the
Yeah.
revenue would
we
come from
count
that line
it as-
item.
We count that as a revenue.
Right, right, right.
So
Yes.
you know, we would, it's doable.
Okay.
It's doable,
Let's
so it's
just
not,
don't
it's
forget
not.
it.
Yeah, no. You said a vendor, I thought you were doing it yourself.
No, the light department's paid for that from the get-go. That was another deal that I made, and so the light department pays. You know, we go out and we do, I think it's 200 hours of brush cutting, and they cut us a check for $10,000 to pay for the brush machine. So it's a
Because you're
win-win.
leasing the brush machine, correct?
Yes. But we'll own it when the lease is up,
Right,
which is
so-
3 more years.
Okay, so we'll just do that. The expense for the brush machine will stay in highway, and then the monies will come
The
through.
monies will come through.
As opposed to them writing a check.
Well, the problem is, you know, they've been putting the money into my road machinery fund, and I've been using the money from that to pay that bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, this is.
Yeah.
You could
real-
do that.
So where does that $10,000, you know, should I add it to my budget right now?
If that's what you're gonna do next year, I would say yes, right? And then you just
Yeah.
increase what they have to give
We
you.
need to explain what we're doing with the light department.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that would be the mechanism, yeah.
Okay.
Because theoretically, it's so your expenses are going up $10,000, but that 10,000 is, as opposed to coming directly to you, it's just going into a different mechanism, but it's still getting paid out of the town accounts.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that with some of the planners' pay. They, the Affordable Housing Trust
Pays a portion.
pays like $12,000 of that salary, and, but we put it in on, you know, and we count it as a revenue from them, and, but it's still coming out of the
Okay.
The planning
Planning
department
board.
budget, huh?
budget.
Yeah.
Right, so it's still, it's on your expense side, but the money's getting added to the top on the revenue side, which is
So,
gonna go,
yeah,
which
the
is gonna
overall
go for
budget
this.
doesn't change.
So this won't change, this budget here won't change,
No, you're-
or will I
Actually,
add
it will.
another
Well,
line?
it will. It'll
It
go up by
This will go-
10,000.
This will go up by
Okay.
10,000.
Yeah.
But also what's gonna happen is the revenue stream on the others, on our total revenues are gonna go up by $10,000
Okay.
now. The same thing.
Yeah.
Question,
Yep.
should we just keep the road machinery fund and perhaps in the future try to fund it so that when he does need a piece of equipment, he doesn't have to go to the capital planning? We would have, because that's what I believe years ago, the road machinery fund was started as. And when we used to fund it, and when the highway department needed something, we had built up the funds in a revolving account.
It was the road machinery fund, but it was also was used to actually bring in other,
I understand, I think in the
Yeah.
end, that's what it got, that's the way it's turned out in the end, but I believe when it was also first started, we used to fund it at town meeting. I mean, I know right now things are tough, but I mean, we definitely have to buy in equipment. I mean, I for one, really would question, do you wanna stop it, or do you wanna just start funding it so that when the highway department needs a piece of equipment, you've got an account to draw out of?
And I think that really is, well,
I mean, why
though
would
we-
the highway department be any different than anyone else?
Right,
I
aren't
mean,
we
have
funding
a
the capital
CIP.
fund?
I don't
Not
know,
this year.
I don't know, that's the whole idea, is to kind
Yeah,
of
but we're not,
put it
we're
together.
not funding the capital fund anymore.
oh yes, this year, we're not funding it at this town meeting, but hopefully this fall town meeting, we have been funding it and we've been
Well,
using
yeah,
it.
and we've been, spending free cash, which we don't have any this year, to do capital spending.
Right, and the capital fund, we try to fund the capital fund, at least a little bit of something, then that has been used for other purchases over the
I
past
don't know
couple of years.
if we've used it, but a few years ago, you had a line item,
Yeah.
a line item on it of over $100,000.
$185,000.
I think right
Where is
now-
that?
Oh, because
Right
it's being
now,
used for 3 pieces of equipment, isn't
I
it?
think right now, the bulk of that, yes, is in the debt column,
Yep.
it's capital purchase at, I think, $105,000.
Yep,
something
leasing,
like that.
some equipment that we're leasing,
Yes.
not lease, it's a lease, whatever the payment.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, we
That
decided
should
to use
go
the-
away at some point.
Oh, it's gonna go away at some point, exactly, and then therefore, we'll still have, then we can start building up the capital. I mean, unfortunately, we can't add anything to the capital, because we've got the capital fund with what's in the budget,
Right.
but then we have
And
the
we
other
had that 185, yeah, line
That's-
item.
hundred
Yeah, I
and five, that
realize
is the
what you're
budget.
saying, I'm
Yeah.
just, like you say, yes, we've got the capital, but I mean, you've had the road machinery fund for years, and I think it was started with it would allow him to continue his budgeting the way he does with some of the equipment that he has. I'm just, do you really wanna eliminate it and perhaps just think about funding it, throwing it out there?
There's a
No, that was
recommendation.
recommendation from DOR,
Yeah.
was to get rid of
I
that.
don't think we're funding it at all, for one thing, so.
Yeah, well, I don't think we have that.
Well, the only way that money gets in it is if I do work for, say, the water department,
Right.
they'll pay, the overtime for my guy, and they'll pay for, like, it's usually like $50 an hour for the equipment that goes into that account.
And why doesn't the DOR like this?
Well, there's no appropriation,
Oh, oh, oh,
it's a slush
yeah,
fund.
it's, yeah. See, they don't like the lack of control.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I always ask before I spend it, so. So there is
You
control.
have to ask town meeting.
Well, that's the easy part, because it's, up to $25,000, will they let me spend it? But I always come to the selectmen and ask before I spend the money from that.
Yeah, I don't.
So,
I guess the tough part is, Gary, there's the machinery, but right now, I think what the pressing, given the fact that we're gonna have a tough time balancing the budget, but one of the pressing things right now is snow and ice.
Perhaps at some time we could consider a
Yeah.
fleet account for the town or something of that sort. Instead
I'm doing
of making all
Well,
the vehicles come through capital. I mean,
technically, a lot of
some
departments,
of your vehicles you can't do under capital, see, that's also it.
technically, a lot of departments right now have a fleet account that, for instance, the ladder truck is being paid. So if that stayed like that, they could go and buy their next truck with that money. And the police department leases vehicles, and they could just keep on
Yeah.
leasing vehicles. We lease vehicles. So when the lease is up, we could just roll that money into another vehicle.
You could, yeah.
And
So,
that's
yeah.
something that with the police department, it's within the budget, so that way he knows what that budget
Exactly.
amount is.
And
the
it's
lease.
it's win-win for everybody. You're not using old equipment that you're paying for a lot of money for
Yeah,
repairs.
yeah, yeah.
And, the town's already been giving money out for the ladder truck for years.
That don't even.
Don't
we
even
don't
go
wanna
there,
talk about
please.
the
I know
ladder
it's
truck.
not a-
It's
Not that
no,
one.
the money,
But,
that's
you know-
77,000 for the ladder truck. When the ladder truck's paid off, that's not available for
Oh, I know,
anybody
it's,
else.
but it would be excellent if it was available.
If it was
Yeah,
done in a
yeah.
different
That way
way.
there, you could
Yeah.
go for your next vehicle and keep on doing that, and the town doesn't see, the taxes don't have to come up because we need a new fire truck. So,
If you look at all the vehicles that we purchased over the last year, and we purchased a lot,
Oh, yeah.
Highway department and that. And
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Consider, like I say, if you wanna do away with the road machinery fund, but perhaps consider a separate fleet account, separate from capital. I just see two of them different. I know you buy a large truck, to last, what is it that it's gotta last to be capital anyway, Mike?
10 years, is it?
No.
No,
It's
five.
5 years,
Five-
$10,000.
5 years, so but do you expect all your vehicles to last 5 years? So a fleet account might be better than trying to purchase a lot of your vehicles through
Yeah, that's something definitely the board can look at over the
Yeah.
next couple of years. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Peter.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
You too.
All right.
You owe me lunch.
Hey, the food's down there.
Hey, can I stay and heckle?
No.
No.
Any other questions?
Okay, you wanna use my, iPad?
Is there, how long is your plug?
No,
Does-
then you won't have it.
The
No,
plug's
it
down
goes-
here in the middle.
Oh, this plug's in there? Okay, okay, great.
Is your plug long enough?
Let me check.
Excuse us while I reassemble.
What's that?
Some of them for power.
No, no, that's not a power. Right there, there's a
This
strip.
one is, that's as far as it goes.
I feel like I need
How
a
long
drink
is
See
after
what I
that.
have here. Thank you.
He should have gone first.
So,
Highway department.
I knew it was gonna be tight and I
Where's this
was
plug
hoping it
into?
could last
My
one more
computer.
hour.
Alright, I can do that.
You're saying the chief's gonna take an hour?
No.
That's what I just
It'll
heard.
take as long as you want it to take. It could take 5 minutes, or we could be here till supper time,
There we
right?
go, exactly.
You're in charge, whatever you think.
Thank you. Thanks for plugging
I
in.
can talk about this stuff day and night, but you just decide how you wanna do it. It's up to you. What I should do is,
He wasn't here. If he goes 5 more minutes, I will in 5 minutes. Just almost made it.
Mike, a quick question. The sheets you sent out recently, while we're waiting for Jim to join
no,
us.
how come,
The
sir?
sheets you sent out recently on the total sheets, does that include the new school numbers? Did you put the school numbers in there or not?
Yes, yeah,
The 3 numbers, Carol,
yes.
but not the one that they just voted on the other night.
I haven't, I didn't even open that.
No, that, I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
that, so what your recent email for the summary
Did
sheets
not
that go under
include-
tab 3, we should all print out at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got that, but will I do it? My printer's not working at the moment.
Just waiting for Jim.
Yep. So organized.
Yeah, it's a sickness.
I have.
Talk to my girls and my wife, they think I'm,
Yeah, my husband does too. He thinks I'm.
but you can be very functional.
All right, Jane, we're just waiting for you.
You're waiting for me?
Yes.
Okay then.
If you can introduce yourself, Chief.
I will. My name is Don Cudmore, I'm the police chief, and I'm also a Georgetown resident, so as much as people think the budget process is boring and long-winded, I think that we all should sit through it as department heads and as employees, because you learn, you really do, and I think that
do.
you know where the money's going and where it's coming from, so I don't find the process to be that uncomfortable. That's why I always end up coming last, I guess, because I'm here, I might as well learn, so.
There you go.
That's good, and as we say to folks at home, when anybody wants to join FinCom, it is a great way to learn about the town. As Joe learned last year, and is learning more this year, and Ashley's learning this year, there's so much more to the town than just a few things you might see.
Very eye-opening.
Where would you like to start?
What I could do, and I will be brief, I've been doing the budget here since 2006, so I've been before the board many, many times. I've tried things that worked, tried things that didn't, learned as a rookie, and now as a veteran. I limit the handouts, but you do need some data to read with regard to the police department because of the size of the operation and the interest in what we do. So I've got some handouts here. The first one, I 3-hole punch them because I know you'd like to just put them in your binder so that you can run home and do
good to
whatever. I
us.
mean, I would read it cover to cover if it were me, but
Mr. Durkee should take a clue from you to come
So,
prepared with 3-hole punch paper.
the first...
All of them.
This first document I call the executive summary, and I think as one of the executive boards for the town,
Thank you.
it's a snapshot of the department. Basically, what we've done in the last couple of years for folks who are new to the board, or for our veterans who just would like to see what's going on. and I break it into the,
Do you have more of these or no?
I got a ton of them.
Can I just get 2 more?
I was gonna
Numbers that are
save 3
missing?
copies for each of your, missing, I have it for everybody, so would you like?
I'll
to-
I'll just take them and I'll
Okay.
I'll give it to them.
So you need 3 of them?
Yeah, just 2 more,
2 more? There you go.
please, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So in this executive summary, basically, I handle the personnel for the department. For folks who just would like to know how the police department operates here in Georgetown, you heard from the fire chief. He's the EMS director, emergency medical services director, and the fire department responds to medical aid calls. We over at the police department, and me as the police chief, I'm in charge of the police department and the communication center. So that's why when you see in your budget, you have personal services for both police services and communications. They're broken down, they've always been broken down, and I'm glad they are, because they are 2 separate departments, although I supervise both of them. And the perspective of the FTEs and so forth are listed there. And then the ancillary positions such as animal control, harbor masters, crossing guard, and things like that are also listed because I am responsible for them. I think the most important thing we've done at the police department is, with the volunteer positions that we've had in the past, such as harbor master and animal control, is a paid position, separate civilian position. Anything that comes under the control of the police department, that person should be employed by the department. It's good policy to have them sign off on our policies, the personnel handbook, contracts where it applies, and so forth. So what's happened in the last couple of years is we've taken those positions, such as the harbor master. Harbor master was a civilian volunteer position. They did a great job when they were there. However, when you're talking personnel policy and human resources, a volunteer who is still an employee has to sign off on policy and so forth, and it was just easier to take these people and put them under the auspice of the police department. They're employed by the town, they're paid by the town, and it's an additional service that they do for nothing. They're not compensated for it. But under the personnel handbook and the policies and procedures of my department, they're following the rules, we're watching them, and there's accountability there. So that was the reason for some of those changes. Several years ago with animal control, we had a civilian position. It was a 35-hour-a-week position. It cost the town about $35,000. By the police department taking it over, not only are the services better, in my opinion, not because that my people do it, but we reduce the cost. There's no ancillary benefits, fringe benefits such as retirement, vacation, and sick time. The full-time officer who does that already gets that. So for a small stipend, they perform the duties, and they've performed them very well. Increasing revenue, working with the town clerk on scofflaws with their dogs and so forth. They're now answering to those violations, and we're as kind, as gentle as we can be, but it's important. Georgetown has over 1,300 dogs in it.
Wow.
We have a lot of dogs. And with that comes animal complaints, animal problems, rabies, all those things. So it's good we're in charge of it. We try to perform the services the best we can. We only had about 18 hours a week with ACO control. We now have 40 hours a week because I assigned it to a full-time officer, and he's there 40 hours a week. So we're able to increase services without cost, and that line item has basically stayed the same, yet it generates revenue. We're not a revenue-generating agency. Don't.
Right.
I stress that. But in the course of business, there is revenue generated, so that's a separate issue within the report. I list a bunch of bullets here. I'm not going to go over each one of them. I think that you can read them. Probably the most important issue that we've dealt with on the police department, as you can see, we have 11 full-time officers. 2 full-time officers retired this fiscal year. It's never happened like that before in Georgetown. Georgetown officers, in my day, starting 30 years ago, would never make it to the end for retirement. There would be lateral transfers. There would be people who just leave early. But the truth be told, it's a nice community to work in. It's a nice job, and people are staying until they retire. So I lost Lieutenant Thompson this year to retirement, 34 years of service. Sergeant DeJoy's retiring in June after 33 years of service. And these people need to be replaced, so we've had some very difficult numbers. I know I've been before your board for academy replacements and so forth. So when you see in the budget a salary and wage temporary, that was an academy training, 6-month training position, and that's why it's not in the budget this year, because we don't need it. The salary is already there. So we train people before the other person leaves so that we don't have to pay the backfill. We did that with Sergeant DeJoy. We have a new officer starting in May in the academy. He leaves in July. The academy ends in November. So we only go about 2 or 3 months without using our reserve force. She was supposed to be in the academy in March. The academy filled up. I couldn't get her in there. I tried everything possible. I just couldn't, because March fit better, because she would have been out sooner. I wouldn't have had the backfill,
Yeah.
but it didn't work.
So when is she going in?
She's starting in May.
In May.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reserve fund transfer we gave you.
Yes, I was gonna get to the.
Okay, all right, fine.
Yeah.
I won't check it then.
Nope. We had funded that officer from March until June 30th. That number will change. You transferred $31,000 into that line item, our salary line item, and that number will be different. So there is some extra money there.
Some money's coming back.
Well, as I did last year, I came before this board last year for a couple of transfers towards the end of the year. Things happen. I mean, crime has been extremely active this year. So we're spending more money. I had a 9-month sick out last year. But I gave that money back, if you recall, at the end of the year because, quite frankly, if I ask for it and I don't use it, I don't use it. And we had a quiet 11 days at the end of the year, so what I anticipated was going south actually remained the same. So we didn't need the money, so that was good news. Same thing will happen this year. I hope I hit those targets. I try to do it every year, and I've been pretty successful at it. But there will be an adjustment on the 31 because she's starting the academy later period. And I'll tell you what that number is once I'm absolutely assured that she's there. It's very difficult to get someone in the academy today.
No, that's fine, just as we're looking at the reserve
Absolutely.
fund for doing things like
Yep.
the repair of the pumper truck and some other areas, we're
Oh, nice.
trying to.
Right.
Yeah,
So can we take that back?
eventually, once he gets a firm number.
Right, no, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
from
We'll
a
be able to take it back this-
procedural standpoint.
Procedural, we can take it back this year, right, Mike? We just have to move it back in. We just have to move it back into reserve fund, so we
Oh,
can
I
actually
didn't-
use it
I've
in
never
FY
done that.
'50.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well,
We
it
don't
doesn't
usually
usually
do that.
happen. It usually goes the other way.
It usually goes the other
Isn't
way.
that just a end of the year where we can move?
No, that's reserve fund, we can do that anytime.
So we can take
can
stuff
take it
in
back
and out of the
anytime?
reserve fund. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I just
Thought it was, once it was in there, it would stay there and then I'd give it back at the end, but it's your money, do whatever,
No, it's
tell me what
it's
to
the
do.
reserve fund, we can move it
Yeah.
back.
I don't see, if you didn't spend it, you don't have to.
We can take it
might not
back.
even have to do anything.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, and like I say,
If we need it.
I have a very good look at the budget on a weekly basis, and then when May does come, that's when I know vacation time, comp time, sick time.
Right.
I've had excessive sick time this year in the communication center. I've had some employees who have struck ill. My staff is older, and I always say wiser, but so sick time has increased. I've had to fill a lot of shifts in my communication center, so I'm always cautiously optimistic that I hit my numbers, but my hope is I can hold true to that.
Right, because I think just as long as we keep a handle, because
Absolutely.
if there is some potential coming back in reserve fund, it's just for some of these other items that would have been taken care of by free cash. If we have money in the reserve fund coming back, then we can know
Yeah.
what we can take care of, especially some that are safety related.
So I give you some descriptions on some of the programs. A big topic usually with the FinCom is the fleet. Mr. Fowler had attended a talk I gave on the PD about our fleet. Our fleet is fine. It's so nice to report that we don't need vehicles on line items. When I instituted that new fleet program in 2009, and we've taken advantage of that success, and I don't have the cruiser problems that I had before, and we're very diligent in keeping the vehicles up to a point, though, where, and I do concur with some of Mike's methodology on when a vehicle reaches its useful life. I've been actually able to surplus the vehicle, and I surplus it by way of public auction. That money comes back to the general fund. I did over $10,000 last year doing that. And as opposed to just taking a vehicle, running it into the ground and putting it in a pile somewhere, the vehicle has some usefulness to somebody else. They go on public auction after they're declared to be surplus by the Board of Selectmen, and then they're sold. And that public auction process is perfectly legal. Mike signed a contract with this company. So when I have a vehicle that's ready to be retired, believe it or not, there is an attractability to police vehicles. There's people out there that like to buy retired vehicles, and there's a whole separate show, I guess, that happens with folks. So when I put them up for auction, I I put a minimum bid on them based on what I believe the vehicle to be worth. I take a bit of pride in the fleet, so I know what the vehicle's worth, what we've done to it, and I'll let that bid hold. I got $4,200 for the last vehicle. I surplused the fire chief's old vehicle with my mission with CIP. That vehicle went up to auction, up to Bill Ricker, so it's a good program. And I have a plan on reducing the fleet again next year. I've reduced the fleet by size and by the type of vehicle we're buying. More economy, durability. The unfortunate part is in fleet, the cost of cars have gone up a little bit. You know, so my $34,000 every 2-year line item may have to look more like 38 because I'm losing ground on that. 34 is held true for probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, but we're good for till next year
Oh,
because
okay. All right.
it's a lease payment, so I'm locked in. I'm talking 2018.
Oh,
Can you go back to 2009 for, because Ashley's new, and for anybody at home, what you did in 2009 with the fleets, with the vehicles?
What happened was, it was a concept within the police department before I made lieutenant that we would buy, we would get a dollar figure, and I know Mr. Lacy has gone back and forth whether a cruiser was capital. It was actually called a capital line item within the police department, so
Yeah.
in the end, police vehicles are not considered capital according to the true definition, as the town administrator had said. So we would just buy one car every year. It would be kind of the style to just buy a car, you know, and as I always say, the other cars are being run into the ground. You'd have that new one, and that one would start. So we investigated, and actually I did with Ford, and I leased 2 cars every 2 years. And in doing so, you keep one car in reserve. So when I get 2 new vehicles, I barely use one of the vehicles, and I run the other vehicles so that I can get their mileage commensurate with each other. So at the trade line, they're replacing one another very effectively. They're not just, you know, we're not just taking a car, running it till it dies, getting rid of it, getting another car. I assigned, everybody drives a vehicle by the style of driving, the gas mileage, the repairs the vehicle needs. Just like in your family, you have people who are harder on cars than others, right? We all know them. And in my family, I have people who are very easy on a car or very hard on a car. So I balance that. And that plan, I wrote a grant in 2011 or 12, I think, with RTA. I got a townwide fleet maintenance program that everybody was trained and used. It was a $10,000 software program. We still use it, very, very active in it today. And that will track even the gas mileage for the shifts that people are driving. I know how much mileage per gallon these vehicles are getting. So I can look at the fuel budget. The prices were down. It was wonderful. They're going back up.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Not as wonderful.
Yeah, it's terrible. So, but that has taken this fleet program, spending the same exact money and just stretching it out, and it's much more effective. And I used to have to come here with lists. Oh, this car's got 100,000, 90,000, 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have any
yeah.
under 80,000 at one point.
And I'm happy to report today there's no frontline cruiser that has over 50,000 miles. So, and then I just got 2 new ones in July, which and thankfully with the blizzard, Juno and everybody else that came rushing through our community, it's a new vehicle. It's a concept. It's an Interceptor Ford with all-wheel drive.
Oh, really?
So we never had a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and we're always, we got one in town meeting that time, so I copied that vehicle, and we have 2 more of those. So we had no problems this year getting around. No vehicles got stuck, no tow bills. So it's working well.
Congratulations, Don.
So knock on wood.
You've done wonders with
that,
with the vehicle
and I attribute it to the staff too. I have a couple of sergeants who really take care of the fleet, and there's pride in ownership when you're assigned a vehicle. It's your vehicle. You're going to be driving it. They vacuum. They're not told to do it. They just do it. And that's a pride in ownership and good employees and taking care of our equipment.
Yeah.
That we pay for as taxpayers. So it's good news on the fleet front. That used to be a big topic. I wish Mr.
Every
Tardif
year.
was here because he was always on me, but he's not. Hopefully he's watching at home. And we don't buy 8-cylinder vehicles anymore. So wrapping this part up, we have the public safety building. Public safety building was in very good shape in the last 3 years. All the repairs we've done to it. It looks good. I was extremely sad and disappointed though this year with the snowstorms. We got a bunch of ice dams, and I got some damage inside the vehicle, inside the building. So working on that. I don't think we're not looking at any budget issues with it right now. We may have to file an insurance claim, I don't know. I have someone looking at, the sheetrock. What happened, the roof didn't leak. The snow got so deep and so high, the walls were leaking. The water was coming through the walls because the drifts had covered the dormers, and so the dams are on the side of the building, not on the roof.
Oh, my
Which is, you
goodness.
just can't even control that. So I lost some clapboards, I lost a gutter piece there, but I'm gonna try to redo that. But not costing us any money. I have a plan with somebody that, they owe us a favor, so we're gonna fix that roof.
Of course they do.
And the only needs we do have at the public safety building, I'm trying to do it within budget, so I've been pushing it off to maybe till July, is a new hot water tank. Our sprinkler system and fire alarm system is already on CIP. So we're hoping maybe in a couple of years we have to really look at that system. The building was built in 1985. The system's old. It's just, the building looks nice. Everyone thinks it's a new building when they come in. But, when you're getting up in 25, 30-year range, you gotta start looking at things, so we're doing that. The heaves in the parking lot, it just took a beating on the front. It's like driving over an ocean wave when you come in the station, because the parking lot hit it. But the rear's fine, because we redid that with the septic system, and we're able to
Yeah.
save some money doing that. So it's brand new back there. It's wonderful.
Just the front, huh?
Front's destroyed. That's the only word I can use. But with my friendship and relationship with Pete, he does a lot of work over there that costs us nothing. He fixes things that prior days would come out of that budget. That's why the maintenance budget on on that whole building is only $11,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's not a lot of money, and half of that is cleaning. 50% of that is
Really?
cleaning.
Yeah.
So, we do a good job, and it's because of the partnerships I have with Dave Schofield. If I have a problem, he gets over there and fixes it with the light department. Pete's a godsend for me, anything I need, so that really works.
No, it has been, just in just even with working with Mike Anderson in the schools and the facility side, that there's been a lot more interdepartmental
Well,
cooperation over the
I
years.
I sometimes have to apologize. I inject myself into these problems and issues, but I do believe that we work so much better together now than we ever have, and it's because of that. And I take pride and ownership in that it's our money, try to save it, and if we can work together. I don't like when government goes awry. I think we can fix, like the snow removal thing.
Yeah.
Mike can fix it, we fix that in 5 minutes.
Right, and
so.
you saved, what was it, 40,000 last year?
40,000 last year, and I just think there's always a way, and Pete's a worker bee. I know that whatever problems I have down front, that he'll take care of that for us, right, Pete?
And it also makes a difference, what I think we said a couple of years ago too, is that a lot of the town employees also live in town.
Yeah.
So it's their tax dollars.
It's pride and ownership. That's what I believe in I believe in that management mantra that, it's my money too. So.
Yeah.
I just wanted to back up for one thing. When a friend from the Historical Commission was here, I had met with him out in the hall. I'll take care of the $1,000. I have a donation account that I can take that money from at the Public Safety Building with the auspice of security and safety of this cane. I've never seen it, but I'll take responsibility for it, so long as I can work with Mike and we hang it where we want. Ed was excited, so we don't have to look for that $1,000. I can cover that, and I talked to Selectman Surface. We'll get some donations. We'll make that work. Positive.
Great.
That's
Thank you.
easy. We covered the IDA submission to MEMA. Town meeting with regard to our warrant articles. If I can, do you want me to just keep going like this? Is this what?
Well, before we get to the articles,
Yep.
in regards to, just to clarify, line item 5150, the fringe benefits.
Mhm.
Is this monies that go above and beyond for covering shifts for when people are out? Is this when you have to bring in a reserve officer to cover someone's shift on vacation, sick
Yes,
leave,
if-
or just to explain what
Sure.
these items are?
On page 2, if you look at, and I have 2 budgets which I submitted, by the way, in the header. One is current staffing, additional SRO. Is that what we're looking at? On the header? That's the one I submitted.
Additional SRO.
All we have is additional SRO.
Okay, well, I'll work off that one, and we can go back if we have
Okay.
to. If you go to page 2, 5150 is further defined down here.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Fringe.
Yeah.
And what it does is, now these numbers, as a matter of full disclosure, and anybody can look at them, they go back and forth, because if I have a sick call, for instance, I have to budget ahead a particular number of sick calls. Some cities and towns budget the exact amount of sick time that's on the books for their employees in the event it's used. I hope and pray that the employees don't use as much sick time as they have allocated to them, and that's usually the case. I forecast from previous years, the employee, how to deal with that. So those numbers are fluid, but under 5150, that's what I come up with each year. And I'll tell you why it's that fluid is, for instance, if a full-time officer is scheduled to work Christmas, right? They have contractual obligations that we're required to pay on that particular holiday that they're assigned. If they come in and they say, I don't want to work Christmas, they're going to take a day off. And I have a reserve officer work that shift. I have to now redirect that holiday pay into another category because that officer may take comp time. So I may have to fill that with an overtime officer or a reserve officer. So these numbers, that 132 stays, if you can see it, it stays about the same. But it's very difficult to determine exactly which category to put that into because it depends who works the shift.
Right.
I could have somebody hold over and then say, I'll take comp time. Comp time saves the budget a little bit of funding because I pay not time and a half, but a reserve rate officer. Reserve officers, for those of you who don't know, are part-time officers. You go to the front of the summary page, your executive summary. The Georgetown Police Department has 11 full-time police officers, including me. I serve as the emergency management director as well. That's why I'm always involved with the MEMA and the budgets and so forth. And I have 15 part-time officers in one administrative position that works 35 hours a week. So with that particular complement of people, I also have 4 full-time dispatchers that work in communications. But what I do is I utilize the reserve officers as part-time dispatchers, so I don't have to have 15 dispatchers, 15 police officers. They're multi-trained. And because they make the same money doing that, whatever job they're assigned to when they come to the station. So that also makes 5150 a little bit of a moving target. But it's basically stayed in that element. Now, last year I had an officer out for 9 months and then one out for a year with a Tom Brady knee injury that he did skiing. So he was out for a year. I had to use reserve officers and full-time officers to backfill that. So my sick time coverage went up a little bit, but I try to redirect my other lines to fill that gap. So there's a bit of mastery there to say, well, if you're going to go to court today, I'm going to pay you overtime, but you're also going to be working the day shift. So, you know, that's where that number comes from.
Right, and just for clarification, unlike other industries or other businesses, if somebody calls out sick, and it's not like other departments, whatever.
I gotta fill the chair.
You gotta fill the chair
Gotta fill the
anyway.
Yeah, you have no choice.
I always say that, you know, you can't skip mowing the field on Friday and do it every other. If somebody's not in that building, that chair has to be filled.
Right.
The cruisers have to be filled and the person behind that desk. So scheduling is a challenge, and you'll see in my descriptor, we utilize a lot of part-time people
Yeah.
because it does save us money. But the scheduling is challenging because these people, you know, they use us as a training ground and they leave. And I've always told the selectmen, it looks like when I come before them with all these appointments, the police department's like 60 people. But it's because I'm just filling those positions where people have moved on as part-time. And we pull from our part-time complement to the full-time. So I don't mean to rush.
No, you're doing fine.
The budget that you're looking at, then, I see has the additional SRO officer, and we'll discuss that. It's also in the summary, but I have a handout here for you as to why this has been such a topic.
Right, because correct me if I'm wrong, last year you decided that you were not going, you wanted to put another full-time officer on the streets, to have 3 people on the streets as opposed to 2 plus an SRO, correct?
Well, yeah,
Or correct me if I'm wrong, I don't,
it's almost there. If you look at page 2 on the summary, it will describe what an SRO, school resource officer position is. And in Georgetown, in 2004, I wrote a grant and got a school resource officer, one of only 5 in the entire state. We were blessed with a federal grant. It was a 3-year grant, and then with a one-year retainer. So that handout I just gave you will come with another description. But and then in 2009, the infamous crash of our economy, and for some reason, well, I guess we'll never forget that year, but we had to lay that position off.
Yep.
So we did have 12 full-time police officers, but one of them was a grant-funded officer since 2004. So when we laid off in 2009, we went back to 11. And we never filled that position, but we had a number of ways to keep presence in the school. The superintendent would pay for some coverage. The police department would come up with some coverage. First, it was a full-time officer, then part-time officers. We did everything we could. And then last year, we just elected not to do it. And with the hopes of trying to move forward this year, not knowing that we were gonna be blindsided with all the snow, that we could finally reposition ourselves again for the SRO. And in the meantime, this safety and security task force was put together by the governor and put a lot of pressure on districts and police departments to ensure the safety of our children in our district. We have our own school district. These are just safety plans that I keep for the district. And the question has always been whether that SRO position should come out of the school budget or out of the police budget. But as a Georgetown resident and as a taxpayer, it's like pulling a dollar out of your left or your right pocket. It's still coming out of my pants pocket. So I don't know where we want to put the number, but the handout I just gave you, basically, there's been some legislation created. It's a safe school framework, effective July 1st of 2015. They cite a Mass General Law there that says every police chief, subject to appropriation, shall assign at least one school resource officer to their school system. And what they did is they actually put in language, which is unique, that they implore the superintendent and the chief to work together to find the right fit for that job. In previous years, the chief would assign who he wanted, but with this legislation, you have to sit down and ensure the district that they're happy with the officer and you're happy. The second paragraph is what is of a concern to me. It says that if the police chief, in consultation with the superintendent, determines that there are not sufficient resources to assign an SRO, the chief shall consult with the state police to ensure that an SRO is assigned subject to appropriation. And my fear is, as much as I'm extremely grateful for the state police and I work very closely with them, but Georgetown's always been a very independent town and we have a great police department, the best in my opinion, but I just am concerned about that legislation and that if in fact, we do have a pre-K through 12 district here that we're responsible for. I created two budgets, one with and one without. It's not my decision. It's my request and recommendation, but it's certainly not my decision because of this problem that we have encountered here. And that's where that comes from.
So this again is another unfunded mandate from the state, or is?
Well, it's
or
not
is it
really a
basically
mandate.
not
It
true?
says if subject to appropriation.
And the thing is though, is I don't know exactly, and I read it loosely because everything is subject to appropriation, I assume.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, some mandates aren't. Some you have to. You have to.
Yeah, so I mean, it's food for thought. I don't know. We've tried all the plans, the part-time, the coverage. We work very well with our district. Everybody knows that. I'm very close with the superintendent and the district as a resident and as a person who has family in the building. So I'm familiar with their needs and I'm familiar with my responsibilities. But I do have to put it in the budget and show that we attempted to fill that position. So.
Joe, you have a question?
Yeah, Chief, question.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, problem, okay, when you talk about that, I
A problem?
foresee- Yeah, well, that's the thing. I foresee a lot of problems now, within schools. I mean, we see, shooting problems that can devastate, a community, never mind, just a couple of kids.
Yeah.
But just last night, I don't know if anybody watches Real Sports, on HBO. There was, a big thing about heroin now that is in the, communities, more so in the burbs. And, it seems like, the more and more I listen to people around town, we are not out of that realm either.
Well,
I would like to further look at this because with someone who does not have kids in the high school yet, but they're getting there, I certainly don't want to see this community encountering any kind of tragedy or anything like that.
Well, we've had tragedy in Georgetown. I think that we're masked, and we had a nice conversation at lunch concerning. And
I mean, tragedy like Connecticut had, where a kid goes and shoots up.
Exactly. But I'm saying tragedy. You had mentioned heroin. It's an epidemic in our country, in our community, in our state, and it does stem from our youth. But it crosses no economic lines. We're not immune from it, and society's complicated today. Our lives are complicated today, and sure, I think that an SRO would certainly supplement those type of issues to help the schools, to help our youth, to help our teachers, to help our residents. So yes, I mean, it's definitely something that we need to look at. It was successful.
Well, look at substantially.
Right.
I really do.
And also too, that my plan as Sandy had mentioned was that in putting an officer on the shift, why you don't see the position funded fully is because I do have a plan that if I assign someone in the schools, they're assigned during the day when the schools are open. So during that day shift, if there is a sick call or if there is a shift vacancy, then I can utilize versus a reserve officer, keeping that officer. And it's part of our plan that, you know, we save some funding during the course of hiring this school resource officer and try to reduce the number of overtime calls and reduce the number of reserve shifts during the day, because I do have that third officer out there assigned to the schools. And the important element too is, although the schools are only open 9 months out of the year, the officer is a full-time officer. That's when you can really utilize that position. If there is a sick call or you need to move that schedule around a little bit, you can utilize that person and take some of the strain off that overtime budget in the reserve force. And then that's why I didn't put the entire number in there, you know.
So, Chair, we would have the high school in Pembroke. I mean, this person, they would go
District-wide. District-wide.
So-
When you look at safety plans for a district, they're district-wide, and then what happens is you take the safety plan that would be commensurate to the grade within the schools. I mean, you go over to Pearly School, the safety planning is much different with the little ones than they are with the young adults at the high school, and then the middle ground at the Pembroke. And the SRO would coordinate that with the school district. The school district doesn't have a safety person per se. We kind of work with the entire administration. That officer would be that person, you know, to threat assessment, school safety planning, and work with those individual administrators, grade commensurate as far as safety.
Would they
planning.
have the right to inspect lockers and things like that?
That's a whole different issue.
That's what, yeah.
It's a whole different issue.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that's just,
Well,
that is.
maybe not now. I
Yeah,
just-
it's just totally separate.
Again, I'm just more looking at, you know, kind of like some other discussions today, you know, if we do look at this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, are we looking at it realistically in terms of how many hours, you know, that, you know, this person might have to put in to really be effective?
Full-time.
You know.
We've tried the part-time. It just, you know what happens is with a part-time situation, you get different people, so you have no narrowing scoping of responsibility and ownership of the project. You know, I could put a body over there. I got 15 reserve officers. I could put a body over there, sure. But it's a different person every day, and there's no,
Continuity.
yeah, so.
Where exactly, because we don't have the with and without, all we have is the, with the SRO, where on the personnel detail is that position?
If you look on page 2,
Yep,
let's see, I want to make sure I look at the right one with you. We have, page 2, if you look at the position section, the first section, if you go down to patrol
okay,
officer, if you look across, under the 40 FTE, there's 5. Currently, right now, there's 4.
okay.
Okay.
That's the
That's-
addition to the position
This
right
is the
there.
SRO is in here.
Yes.
And
If-
it's, and it is
if you
for
would like
40
it.
hours, it's for 40 hours?
Would you like this one? I can send that to you.
I don't, I don't know
You
if
need it?
maybe it's already been sent. Jim
Okay.
had closed his computer. Mike, when you sent the budget out, when Jim and you sent budget numbers out, does it include the without SRO officer budget number?
See, this one has 4. It's the same exact document.
Call.
Yeah, it just,
Do you know if you have it? If you can send it, just make a note, or do you have it on your computer?
yeah, I'll
Just
get
forward
this to you
us? Okay,
when I go downstairs, that's fine. And so, that's the difference in those two documents there.
okay.
Expenses in the PD, the expense line item, the utility line item, which is to maintain the generator. Utilities, with that consortium plan with Mike and ESCO,
Yeah.
our electricity and our gas bills are paid. They took that out of the budget, which
Yep.
was a very good idea. And then the building expenses, police expenses, and the utility line item, which really will be eventually incorporated with the new chart of accounts into the building maintenance, are all level funded. There's no increases there. The only outstanding contract in the PD is the communications dispatchers have not settled their contract. The police did this year, July 2014, and the command staff did. So they've been signed and ratified for a 3-year period. Dispatchers are still working, so I do have an outstanding contract there.
When do we expect that to be settled?
Well, the unique thing with regard to that is the union steward of the communications dispatchers was the person who was promoted to full-time police officer this year, Joanne Ballard. So they need to find a new steward. I need to hire a new dispatcher. So they'll only have 3 personnel in that union until I do that, and I won't do that until that position becomes vacant in May.
Okay, so Mike, are we accounting for any monies for that?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have to tell me where. But as long as we're accounting for it within the total number.
And on my
Yep.
town meeting request, if I have the ability to ask, with regard to the warrant articles that I had requested, including the CIP article, this is on there for $11,000 for tree removal.
Yeah.
May I ask to just remove that?
Always asked to remove.
Yeah.
Have you figured it out?
Well, no, I just have, I'll tell you the reason why. During the summertime, once that money was, that plan was put in place, my good friend and colleague Peter Durkee was working on some, we had a substantial issue concerning some large trees on the property. And he was able to work with Mayor Tree and get down at least half of the trees that I needed to be taken down. The other half are on the south side.
Yeah.
That's what's causing some of the non-sun to get on the roof. But I just think that in these extraordinary times, let's just push that project off for now. I'll deal with it later. Because those trees are not necessarily in danger of the building or anybody. They're more in the way for sunlight and so forth on the building to melt the snow on the roof. It's just something we can push down the road.
Is there no contractor out there that would want to take it? What kind of trees are they? Are they hardwood or are they pines?
I'm gonna have to defer to Mr. Durkee.
All right.
To me,
I'm
a
just-
tree, I just know about a pine tree and an oak tree, and I pretend to know a little bit about everything. I don't know much about trees.
I'm just surprised that if somebody's looking for firewood or something like that.
Well, part of
that
the
does-
problem is they need to be taken down with a crane because the police station, although we're on a hill, we sit in a bowl. If you look at the building,
Yeah.
look at the topography of the land.
It goes up.
Yeah.
It used to be
Yeah.
the playground to this old building. This was a school, and that was the playground. That's why we own that building. But the police station sits on a hill, but it's actually in a bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that bowl, to take a tree down, you just can't go up there with a chainsaw and take it
Right.
down. It takes equipment and lifts, and it's complicated, like
I'm just
life.
surprised some tree company or somebody
know.
wants to do it for pulp. I don't know. Maybe
But
it
but
isn't.
Peter and I are working, because there is a property line issue. We have to work with CVS to determine I don't want to take a tree down that we don't own. And so we're working with some mapping. Howard's helping us with some mapping too. But I saw the article and I'm like, we can move on from that. I think that we'll just, I'm on CIP. I keep an eye on that. We'll move down the road with that. So if we want to eliminate that,
Okay.
if I'm allowed to ask that, I don't know.
Yes, you are.
Oh, I'm.
Gary, you have a question or comment?
Well, I had a question on backing up the resource officer. How much do you see of his position helping, let's say in a percentage wise,
For the district?
25% perhaps?
For the school district?
Yeah.
Well, during the school year, I would say closer to 75%. And then off school year, that 9 months school's in, and then during the summer vacation hiatus, whatever you want to call it, I would return that officer to the department roles, and then we would be able to utilize that shift as I had described.
But even things like school vacation
course,
weeks
of course.
and,
Well, that's what I'm thinking,
Yep.
like
they got a lot of days
December,
that they don't go.
He could cover I imagine just
Absolutely.
like a school.
That's my
you-
plan.
You must,
Yep.
so are you thinking that 50% of his salary might come out of that fringe benefit? That's what I'm getting, do you think 75% of his salary?
Of that
might-
one officer,
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to say 50,
okay.
without putting some numbers on paper for you. Do I see 35? 35 maybe?
Okay.
I do see that. What I would do is do an actual analysis. Take the school calendar, take our calendar, and determine. But what I did was I came up with an ancillary figure from the contract. Because when their contract was settled, there was an educational incentive question in there, which they fixed. So there was some money there too. And, prior to the contracts being settled, if you hired an officer who did not have a bachelor's degree, there was a different salary for a different officer. We want educated police officers, we need them. Things are complicated out there, you want someone who knows what they're doing. So that's been corrected. So, we have that rough number in mind, and any of the other monies to get to that salary I would use out of that line item.
Okay, so here's a question. If
Sure.
you got the SRO is there, number one, would you have to send someone to the academy?
Yes, but I don't have to backfill because there's no position to backfill.
Okay, and is there?
So that
mo-
saves that $30,000 by having, see, traditionally, if someone leaves, while they're gone, the other person in the academy, we fill the slot.
Right.
But there's no slot to fill, so there is that $30,000
And the
savings there.
academy costs what, 4 or 5,000?
Is the
$3,000
academy?
and about 1,100 in supplies.
And
Is that
what-
in here?
Is that what this,
I wanted to ask you, with regard to that warrant article that I put forward, that transfer that I'm asking for was for this fiscal year, because that person's going to the academy in this fiscal year. So,
so this could,
that could be a reserve fund transfer. I need that $3,000 to put my May Academy officer in May 15 this
I thought we
year.
already gave that
I
to you.
already gave you money.
No, that's for salary. That's academy expense. I have to pay the Commonwealth $3,000 to have them go.
We transferred 30-something. right?
31,000.
31.
That was for
I thought-
salary.
I thought we had done transfer also for the academy.
That was last year. That was the last officer in December.
So you don't have to send this
Well-
officer to send in May?
I have, obviously, I can write a check right now. I'm just fearful that my expenses may go in a deficit if I spend $3,000 that I haven't actually allocated anything for in this current year appropriation. That's why I asked for that.
But,
It's,
Were we-
it's not for post-July 1, that,
okay,
that
were
45.
we talking, when we said the 31, didn't we think that was gonna be something less?
Yes. In the 31, it will definitely cover it, but my problem is, they're in two different line items. One's in salaries,
Oh, the others-
well, what do we call them now? Personal services and purchase of services.
Right.
The
Yeah, but-
31,000 is in salary.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. I could definitely be able to take
Right,
that.
because we were saying that we could take some money back.
Mhm.
And then we
Or
would,
we just move it at special town meeting, we just.
Yeah,
move it over.
exactly. Or we could move
Right.
it from salary, 118, to the expense
Right.
line
Okay,
item.
so
I'm
then-
sorry, 2211.
All right, so then the question is that right now for fiscal 15, do not have the funding for an academy?
I do. I won't say on television I don't have the funding for the academy because they won't give me the slot.
No,
I can
alright.
pay for it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Right, so 15 is all set. You've got an article in here for 16 for the academy.
That's for this year.
then that's not on, that shouldn't be on
That
there.
shouldn't
That's
be on
correct.
there.
That's why I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay.
It was,
So you don't need this, or do you?
well, I need it, but it's not in that, it probably shouldn't be in that venue. It should be off that,
But if you're gonna get a school resource officer, when are you gonna send them to the academy?
post-July 1.
So then you
So
would.
that
need
would be
this-
that
Would
one.
be, that's post-July 1
Well,
money.
no, because I think that in moving forward,
Yeah.
July 1st with my expense line item, I can find that. I can redirect vehicle repairs. I'm running 2 new vehicles right now and things like that. I can scrape up the $3,000 for fiscal year 16. That's why I didn't put that in there for the future SRO officer. I have a problem this year because of my 2 retirements that
So
fell on.
you put this in before you knew about the second retirement?
That's correct. That is for the officer that's going in May. So you can take that off special town meeting.
Okay, so.
But I
this
still-
wasn't
Well, that
special,
was-
this is annual.
Annual.
That was
Annual,
annual,
yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
this is gone.
That's correct.
Oh, look it, he comes and we're getting rid of warrant articles.
So, all right, so.
But you
for-
have
for
to
the
promise
minutes-
me to make sure you review and look for that
Andrea, for the minutes, it's ATM 15-33 will be removed.
Okay,
in the tree one
thank
too.
you.
And ATM 15-30.
And my other one's not a money article, it's a dog waste article for bylaw.
Wait a minute, hold on. I want to go back to the SRO.
Sure.
So, you would have to send them to training, to the
6
the
months.
academy. But there's no, did you put the academy money in here? Did I
You
ask
won't-
that?
No, because the amount of money that you would pay the
Oh, it was
SRO officer is.
3,000, right.
But the salary is in this line now.
Yeah, okay.
And, I say this, depending on the academy schedule,
Yes,
would determine,
How
again,
much?
that money. So, for instance, if the academy doesn't start till September, of course, I would appoint someone to attend effective after July 1 if this is approved in
Right.
September. So there's a gap there where I don't have to pay for anything.
okay, my other
no
question is there any additional training being an SRO officer?
There is. But but that will be my problem.
I love his answers.
Well, you have to be creative. You can't come in and ask for everything. You have to, there's a lot of sleepless nights, but it's getting done,
And we appreciate it. And
We do
know-
appreciate
we know
it.
Everybody thinks very creatively in this town.
But to maybe just offer something, I do have currently 2 officers who are
Yes.
NASRO trained.
Yes.
And they may or may not elect to take that position if posted, and the new officer doesn't necessarily become the SRO, could be a veteran officer who's already
Yes.
trained.
Right.
So that's why that would be a pop-up to see whether I would even actually have to train someone.
Right.
If a veteran officer said, I'll do the SRO, and Carol and I agree, it costs us nothing.
Right.
And then the new officer becomes a rookie officer and he doesn't get the training.
Right.
So there is a possibility that there is no money involved in that.
Right, and they're all just
But it would be my problem.
thoughts, right? Because, nothing's
One of
approved.
many, but nonetheless, we'll
Yeah.
take care of it.
All right, so you have another warrant article?
It's about dog waste.
Yeah, I saw
It
that.
doesn't cost us anything.
I kind of chuckled.
No,
You should. Well, what's happened is with the school projects and our schools, and
Where
like I
is
said, we have
That page, second to
this
last
probably
page.
is, I think it's not in.
It's not in with the rest of them.
money.
This is it.
Oh, was it a supplemental one?
No, it's the second page, bottom of the second,
Yeah.
of the second to last page.
All right.
And that warrant article doesn't cost us anything.
Oh,
It's gonna
page
cost the
6 and
people who
7.
violate
Oh,
the law
that's
is what
right.
it is. We've had a problem, whether it be residents or visitors to our community, walking their dogs. We have some nice places to walk dogs, but they're making a mess and they're not
Yeah.
taking it with them. And I don't have a bylaw to deal with it. The schools this year had a terrible time at Pembroke because of the kids are all over the place and they're not in the playgrounds. They're falling in it and kids are upset and mums are upset. I would just like to have an enforceable tool. We actually found some people on the turf field walking their dogs this year before it snowed. I
Oh,
mean,
come on.
so I've erected signs with Mike, again, the great relationship with Mike Anderson. We got signage at the public schools already, as well as other public venues. Just have some teeth behind a situation that if we have a scofflaw or someone who's not paying attention on purpose, that we have a bylaw for that.
But we did, at Camp Dennison, we actually put those little plastic bags.
Most, I would say most people are responsible pet owners, but we do encounter, and especially, this was brought to light by some parents, and at the Pembroke School, the principal came to me and said, what do we do? And I looked at some cameras, and, I'm looking at video, but I can't, there's nothing there. You just got a bad person that did a bad thing,
Right, exactly.
So
There's no
that's
law
why I
to
asked for that
enforce.
bylaw.
Yeah.
So how is it gonna be, how do you think you'll be able to enforce it?
Well, I have some ideas. I'm working with the animal control officer. The good thing is on our schools, there's video cameras all over the buildings. And we're actually able to look at what people are doing out on the external parts of our schools. And it's great, like we talked about at lunch, Georgetown's very active in knowing what's going on, and people are telling us what's going on and who's doing what, so, we can deal with that.
So are you going to have a hotline or a text?
I don't wanna get that deep into it. No pun intended.
Twitter?
Can't we simply post signs saying, they can't be on the property after school hours?
Well, the thing is though, is we don't necessarily wanna lock out the public on our public properties.
Right.
Right.
Because they do pay for them, and there's a certain time and place for all that, I do agree with that. But it's nice to see people on a Sunday morning walking their dogs at Pembroke, and, there's some beautiful conservation areas out there that people use. I don't believe that people who are in charge of those properties would wanna lock them down from the public.
Yeah, well, listen, at the same time, until such time people don't utilize the land the way they should.
They won't, if the
Period, end of
irresponsible.
story. If they don't wanna, take care of the property, then they shouldn't be on it.
You sound like me.
The
That's
irresponsible-
I agree,
mean,
but
it
we just
is
have to,
what it is.
this here is a bylaw that at least if we have a problem, we have the bylaw. Our animal control bylaws, to be very honest with you, haven't been looked at in years. Now that I have an officer assigned to that task full-time, I have a package right here that I only pulled the poop article out because the other ones are just, they need public hearings and so forth.
Yeah.
Changing of fines, different type of things. But those, I'm an enforcement officer, I'm not a legislative officer, so I like the public to tell me and the legislative branch to tell me what laws you want in the books, and I'll enforce them. I should not create legislation that I will eventually enforce, because there needs to be a balance with that. That's the executive branch's job to say, we want this new law, and then we have a police department to enforce it. So I leave that. I certainly have a recommendation, and I have an opinion, pretty strong one sometimes, but you know, I just
When
like
you
to.
have kids falling in there,
I got it.
Come on.
That's
That's why we're here today. That's why, and I told,
It is,
I
and it's
promised to
just,
do
having
something.
had a dog who, living around the street corner from Pembroke, I bring Clyde up and go to the conservation, it's really irritating to see
Very
people
messy.
who are very irresponsible, and especially when you are a responsible dog owner and you wanna keep things right so you can have the ability to bring your.
And
your
another
pet in.
important element here too is that there's been a lot of legislative changes in 2012 relative to animals. Animal owners have more rights than ever. That's why you see dogs in stores, there's public service animals. There's a lot of interaction now between the public and dogs in general. So why I'm looking at our statutes to make some recommendations is, you know, we may be changing things because, I mean, you go in Home Depot and you turn around and there's a dog standing there, someone's brought their animal, and it's just kind of the way it is, you know, we're a different society. One more thing, I know you want me to leave.
No, no,
These are,
we enjoy you.
1 year, I try to give the crime stats or report stats for each year that you can add to your report. Don't look too much into each number because each number is classified differently in NIBRS and United, the UCR. What it does, it just gives you a snapshot of what's going on. Each category has many subcategories. These are just reported to the federal government in accordance with the law, and then it just gives you a snapshot. And I submit that every year to the Board of Selectmen with the annual report. But so you can put that with your materials that you're going to read ad nauseum tonight.
I have a question, because
Sure.
seeing the ads that are out there with about domestic violence and knowing full well that having been involved in rapid response years ago, it was interesting because one of the phone calls on an ad, she was calling 911 to order a pizza. Okay, is that something that if is that something that the police understand, that, you know, if someone's calling and they're being very calm, I'm
Very-
ordering a pizza or I'm ordering something else, that
Very
you
common.
guys, it's not unusual, and it's something
No,
that,
and-
is that something that, I hate to
There's
say an
specific-
advertised
yeah.
call for a pizza, and then the abuser
There's
hears them calling
specific
for a
trainings
pizza.
that both
Like code words
dispatchers
or
and police officers
Yeah.
have, that if someone's speaking in code or doing something like that, it's all used in training modules. An experienced dispatcher, experienced police officers can read people, they can read people's tone, they can read people's voices. And quite frankly, too, because of us having our own communication center, we know addresses, we know people.
Yeah.
Unlike a regional situation where they don't know where, I know where Mr. Lacy lives, and probably all the police officers do, as we know where all you folks live. And we know the families that may or may not be in need, and that's what's great about local flavor and local control. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
I just, even though my years of being on rapid response, I'd never heard that before until I heard the ad.
Yeah.
just
I haven't heard
recently.
the ad.
It's just, it's basically,
The woman
it's the
was
whole.
looking for help, and she just said,
She was ordering it. She called.
She
the
did believe she was
dispatcher
ordering
said,
pizza.
"You've called 911. Yes, I'd like to order a pizza." And then he went through the series of, you know, are you alone? No. You know, is there an emergency type of thing? It was just, it was interesting. It just having
The one
been
that
on,
went slow motion through the house, and you could see that there had been an altercation.
Right.
And then with the voiceover, was that the one?
I don't know if I just this is just something on screen, but I had never heard that before. Of, you know, the volunteering, being involved, stuff like that.
Do you have another? I wasn't at the last meeting. Do you
Right,
have another
if you
copy of
put
the
it in
warrant?
budget book, that it goes with it. And just one more in closing with regard to the crime reports and the police log that people read in the newspapers. There's been some significant changes in legislation relative to the releasing of police reports. So when you read the crime log and you think nothing's going on, it's because a lot of things
Can't.
cannot be put in the paper anymore and cannot be released to the public. So I try to just caution the public to think that just because you see not as much as you would want to see or believe in the crime log in the newspaper, there's much, much more going on, and these stats will show you. It's just that with new legislation, even coming up in 2015 after the summertime, there are certain things that we're not allowed to talk about anymore for the protection of people with disabilities, people who are handicapped, people who are elderly, people who have domestic violence, sexual assault. You're not gonna see that released anymore because it's for the protection of the victims and the families and the innocent.
Good.
Can I publicly thank you for the reverse 911 calls? Like, you know, when there's,
Code red.
oh, yeah.
yeah, you know, when there's been a lot of break-ins in one area. I did appreciate, please take your keys out of your car. I thought that was kind of comical.
Well,
I'm
you
like,
know,
I know that guy.
I just,
I talked to him. I said, "You out of your mind? What's wrong?" He goes, "Well," and he said, "I live in Georgetown. I didn't think anything."
We can't stress enough that, like I said,
It's
you
a
know,
great
yeah, we live in
service.
Georgetown, and it's a great community, and it's the best community in the world, in my opinion. However, in these times, we're not. You try not to make yourself a victim. You know, you have to lock your cars. You have to lock your door. You should always get an alarm for your property. We're no different than any place else. We just happen to have a nice little square part of the world that's ours, but there's still bad people out there that want to do bad things, and you don't want to become a victim. Don't make yourself a victim. Lock your car.
Well, take that as it's not people from Georgetown that are
No.
going
Exactly.
into your car.
No,
People
it's
from
not.
outside. That
Yeah.
And it's usually, and it's been known over the years, I know, all the police have been finding, people breaking into cars, they're not really breaking in, the car's open.
Right, exactly, and they're leaving their
Right.
keys. I mean, I still talk to people downtown as a local, as a townie, and I say that,
Not a townie, yeah.
I know I'm not. Three
Gary's
more
got a
years,
job.
I know he's shaking his head. I say it to him all the time. You know, you can't leave your keys in your car anymore. It doesn't matter where
Right.
you live in the world. I mean,
Exactly.
unless, you know, you just cannot do that. Don't leave your laptop in your car, and don't leave your wallet in your car. You know, I mean, you don't leave your purse in the grocery store just because you're in Crosby's in Georgetown. I mean, there's still someone out there that may take it, so personal protection, and the same thing for the entire community.
All right, do you have a shameless plug before we get off the air?
I don't.
No?
wow.
I think I've talked too much. No, not too bad.
Sorry. Any other questions?
No.
All right.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
With regard to the finality of this, will that be in the April Wednesday meeting to see where we're at? If you need us to answer any more questions, will you need us at any more meetings? Or will you summons us to a
I don't
meeting?
know.
I guess we don't really know. We have to look at all the money and look
Okay,
at
yeah.
what everybody wants.
Right, now that we've gotten the school numbers, now that we've gotten the numbers.
Not to,
and
I just was wondering, should I
spreadsheets.
still plan on the FinCom?
Wouldn't be the
There was
April meeting.
there was a
would it?
date on
No,
our
before.
schedule with regard to finality of the
It would be
budget.
the very last
Is it still our
No, I
target
think
date?
Wednesday
it-
in,
in March.
I think we have every Wednesday in March scheduled
We
as a
do.
meeting.
We have the school departments coming next Wednesday.
Yeah.
25th.
25th
the
would
like,
be.
the most
But
likely.
if you need us, you'll summons us, that I won't.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I won't be sitting home on the couch and they'll say, we need the police department.
Where's
Yeah.
Chief
Yeah,
Cuddy?
he said he was
supposed to be here.
Yeah, he said he was
No,
coming.
no, I think that's the idea is that, and CPC, I'm going to contact them, because they're supposed to have their stuff wrapped up by the 17th of March, so hopefully we can get
So
them
here
to
we
the
are,
18th.
37.
And ideally, on the
Yeah,
25th,
well, here we are.
Yeah. We'll be-
ideally on the 25th, we'll know
It's Wednesday.
what exactly snow and ice is,
Let's hope so.
so.
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, that's what I'm doing. That's all I can do.
And quite honestly, we have to really, I know everybody's excited about hearing 40s and 50s. We really
Gotta
don't
be
want it to
kid-
be, we
No.
don't want it
Don't
to be
get
40s.
too hot, yeah.
We
No.
want a very slow melt. If you don't have a slow melt, we're gonna have massive flooding.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You got copies for all the other members, I'm all
I think
set.
so, if not, I'll just make copies and do that. Thank you very much, Chief. Anybody else have anything to add? Mike, do you have anything to add to this meeting, or thoughts?
No, you see me enough. And hear me enough.
And we have all the, what you guys sent out, we've got everything, right, electronically now, so.
I don't have Mike's budget, the Park and Rec budget, or Health Department budget electronically.
Okay?
So if you could send those.
Yeah, I don't have Parks and Rec, I'll have to get it from Richard.
Yeah, but the other two, I have town accountant, town treasurer, I don't have yours specifically, the admin.
He gave me a spare, I can give it to you, Mike.
No,
No, this
we're
is
looking for
electronically.
electronically, because we wanna take it now and.
Dump it.
We gotta dump it into the final thing, because I wanna take everybody's requests.
Well, okay,
And see where we are.
the one that Mike sent out, that I sent to you, has them all in it.
Okay,
But it
But-
isn't linked to the ones I have. You gotta be a little careful about
Okay.
that.
So for housekeeping.
Mike's has it all in it.
I can request a transfer then from wages to expenses for that academy cost when I show the savings concerning that academy officer. And this
Yeah,
board
we
can do that. You can do that.
no, that can be done at special
We'll
town
do it at the
meeting.
special in May.
So,
We can take money back and put it back in the reserve fund,
okay,
but we cannot make from salary to expenses unless it's the end of the year, but it'll be cleaner if you know what it is, just to do it a special.
I'll get you a-
We can, because we can go up to a certain amount
I
towards
was
the end
gonna
of the
say,
year.
well, we could take it back from reserve fund and then do a reserve fund transfer into
Something else.
the other account.
Would you
Yeah,
want-
but we'll just do it.
Is that
special-
complicated? Yeah,
just-
I mean, what I'll do is I'll
Because you
reduce
won't
it to
need it
writing
till-
to Mike, and then
Okay.
that can be done at special, and then that takes those two money articles out of the
Yeah.
special, out of the town warrant, and then it will satisfy that transfer need, and then I'm clean.
Right, and Mike, we can I mean, we can take money back into the reserve, can't we?
Well, I'm gonna.
We're gonna
talk
check
to
on that, right?
Mary about that tomorrow, on Monday.
Just to make sure legally we can do that.
Yeah, I've never done it.
We've never done it.
never
We've
had the
we've never
opportunity
had
to
the
do
opportunity-
it.
Yeah, we've
No,
never
that's true.
done it,
Well, the
so.
good news too is when May comes, and it's gonna be here before we know it, and realizing where that expense line item is for me, so long as nothing breaks over there, you know, if, just like I do every year, I mean, I hit the number and I'm always giving back.
Right.
If I can hit the number and do it, I'll make sure you know that.
Right, and that's, so if we can't get it back in through our mechanism, we'll just do a special town meeting for anything we need to
Move
I
it.
think you'd be
I
able-
think you'll just have to rescind your vote, and then we'll.
do a new vote, just rescind a vote and do a no
rescind the
vote.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to ask you, the rescinding of the vote of the ambulance is not in the warrant? Do we have to have that as an article?
No, we never took it out.
So do we need to, but we don't need to vote to rescind it?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I'll double check.
just double check to make sure if,
If we had moved the money, probably, yes. But actually, I think $1,000 got spent.
right, I just wanna make sure that
1,200.
legally that it's,
Yeah.
that nobody challenges this somewhere down the line. And if it's something that we have to do and it's not in this town meeting, just need to do it for the fall town meeting, to rescind that from the ambulance.
Oh.
The purchase of the ambulance, remember
Because
that
it's gonna
one?
go back into the
Right.
step fund, yeah.
Right.
Just
Oh, no,
a question on your scheduling.
Mm-hmm,
You mentioned school department, when are they?
they're gonna be the 11th.
next Wednesday.
It's
Okay, so
not,
that's
it's not on the
not
no, it's not on the
your
schedule. Nope.
Okay. Thanks.
Like I said, and then we'll have I'm gonna ask CPC to come on the 18th, and then we'll have deliberations on the 18th and the,
Yeah, and the
25th.
25th. And when does the, it have to be done and sent to the printer? What's our drop dead date?
April 4th.
right, so
April 4th.
our drop
It's
dead
the
date is the
first.
1st.
April 1st,
Right,
okay. That's a Wednesday?
That's the following Wednesday.
yeah, that's the following Wednesday.
Oh, okay, all
April
right,
Fool's Day,
that's not bad.
so,
Well, thank you all very much.
thank you.
For
Thank
listening.
you for
Thank
joining
you.
us all day. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for joining us.